Skype and like look at the audio video settings on it?
I should be able to. I don't know if I can do it while we're talking, but let me see something.
Try it. Just try it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then like, yeah. And then when you plug up the mic, maybe it'll like detect it as a new device and you can change. Do you see like the name of your headphones on the what do you call it? On the microphone audio part?
All right. So I got nothing.
Okay. That's fine.
So I turned all of the notifications on, and then when I plugged the microphone back in, I lost your audio. So I don't know what's happening with it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
All right.
It's fine. It'll be good.
It sounds great.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're in an isolated spot, so there's not a lot of background noise or anything. So unless Charles chimes in sometimes, so we'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Charles. Oh, Charles.
How
Oh,
are you all?
All
How are
right.
you all doing today?
good. How are you?
Doing well. I just got back from a pretty long hike. You know the Colorado land there, Becca, right?
Yeah.
Went over by Cripple Creek.
You're
Near
gonna have to
Colorado
give me.
Springs. Yeah, near
Well, oh,
Colorado
okay,
Springs.
okay. Yeah,
going
yeah.
west on 24.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, by some of the old mining equipment and stuff. All the towers are still there. It's really cool to look at the history.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. How long was the hike?
A couple hours, followed by barbecue.
Oh,
you
so good.
enjoy, Ryan. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Is 2-hour hike there? Is that like exhausting? Like, I would assume in Colorado, like, I mean, you're accumulated to it because of the altitude and all that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I spent the last 9 weeks at the wheel basically, so no exercise whatsoever, and so basically off the couch, it was a little challenging. I mean, we were at 10,000 feet, so when you go from where we are at like 5,600, there is a noticeable difference.
Oh, okay. So it is. There are areas that people go hike that's like you're not still hiking at like 5,000 feet that you're used to. You're going like you can go up pretty quickly and have to accumulate to it.
Right. But it was
Ryan,
get acclimated to it.
let's get your mic a little farther away from you.
Does that sound better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Like right up on me.
Yeah. I just want everything to be a little bit more even so that we don't have to
adjust it after.
The weird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you don't have to adjust it after. I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah, so I don't have to adjust it after.
That's all you.
It's all me. Yay! Okay, well, are you ready?
Yeah.
We just kind of do like a rolling start, so.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that. We're live. You probably already did.
Do we do that with people? I don't feel like we do that with people.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, a rolling start's fine. Like I have a few notes down, and I wanted to. Are we already recording?
We are.
Okay.
We'll do
I just edit it according to when we start.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how freeform your normal interviews go, but I just want to say no questions off limits. Like, I'm an open book. Yeah, so.
All right.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, Becca.
You ready?
You start us off. I feel like I always start us off.
Well, okay, fine. I'll do it for Chris. We're live.
We're live. Ooh, we need a little deeper voice. I
A little bass.
usually
in
do
there.
the little high pitch thing. We didn't really do the low
Yeah.
voice.
We should do a lower voice one sometime.
Five.
Yeah, there you go. Do an opera version.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be down for that. I would.
That's
People
fun.
would probably have to take off their headphones though.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are live today with a third person. We got Chris Burch on the podcast today. And do you want to introduce yourself a little bit about who you are? And, we know each other through Instagram, but can you let people know if they don't already know?
Sure. I'm Chris Burch, and I am a potter in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Started pottery back in 2013. Originally from Florida, so I'm really, really glad to be in the mountains. I don't have to deal with heat and humidity and mosquitoes and hurricanes and all that business. But yeah, I was just taking some college classes and happened upon a pottery class, and the rest is history, as they say.
Oh yeah, I know how that is.
So you say you started pottery in 2013? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So I listened to your. I first got we've crossed paths on like Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I kind of got to know a little bit more about you from listening to the Potter's Cast episode with Paul.
Yeah.
For people that want a little bit more backstory or learn some more stuff about Chris, it's Potter's Cast 656. I listened to that actually right before we met today again.
Oh, cool.
And that was back in August 2020. So it's still pretty recent. It's about a year, a little over a year ago, about this point. I'm not sure when you recorded it with him, but.
Thanks for informing me that he was on a podcast so that I could listen to it too.
I feel like I've talked about it before, though.
I don't
But
remember
would you have listened to it beforehand?
I would have. Today
Would
I
you?
would have.
Okay. All right.
Will you listen to it after, though, Becca?
Nope.
Could have told you that. So give that a listen. Okay, so you came into pottery 2013. I didn't know that part of it, and then you kind of started in a class that you joined with a friend. Is that kind of how you stumbled upon it?
So briefly, yeah. So all I knew of ceramics before that year was my mom made porcelain dolls when I was growing up. So she always called it ceramics, and so I never even thought of the world of functional pottery. And so my friend Jason and I were taking a watercolor class, but our instructor had a neurological disorder, so he wasn't able to continue the next semester. So I was just kind of backpedaling, looking for something to do, and I saw Ceramics 1 in the register. So I called Jason. I'm like, hey, why don't we try this? It'll probably be slip casting, but let's give it a shot. And to my utter surprise, it was pottery wheels in the middle of the floor. There was no, gallons or 5 gallons of slip and molds. There was none of that.
Yeah.
And the instructor did a demo, and I was completely sucked in.
So did you grow up like your mom had a studio and stuff with all the molds everywhere and the slips and stuff, or did she did she get like dolls that were already done and she painted them, or?
So all of the above. She had a little craft group called Kathy's Creations, and she got together with her friends as a way to get away from their husbands at night and stuff, and just to do things together. She did the gamut. She knitted, she crocheted, she decoupage. She dealt with greenware, and I still actually have a pencil that's a 2-part pencil that she painted. It was one of those greenware pieces that I can still see the edge marks and the little from where she had it standing on the stilts in the kiln.
Mm-hmm.
But she had a little kiln, and so they did a few things, but she had lots and lots of porcelain dolls.
Wow.
Yeah. It must have been a creepy house growing up.
There were times. Creepy here and there.
Porcelain dolls.
Yeah.
And you said you lived in Florida. Did you go to school there and all that? Is that kind of where you first got introduced to it there as well?
So through high school, and then at 18 I moved to Seattle actually for a year. And did a bunch of climbing. Worked at a pizza place. Didn't have much responsibility nor life experience. So that lasted a year, and then I went back to Florida, went in the Army, ended up in Tennessee for a number of years, then back to Florida in '98, for 11 years, I ran a business for my parents. It was a fire protection business.
Oh,
And
okay.
so art was never, ever a part of my vernacular. The person I moved to Seattle with, actually, his name's Richard Heisler. He's a photorealist painter. So
Mm-hmm.
in a way, art was, I was involved just with him. But for me in my personal life, I never, ever could think to call myself, that I would call myself an artist someday. So then after the 11 years in Florida managing my parents' business, my wife and I, not quite throwing darts at a map to say, where do you want to go? But we had both been through Colorado before, and once in our life, and we always remember how nice it was. And so we're like, why don't we go somewhere with seasons, go somewhere we can experience snow? And, you know, little did I know what was in store and what kind of a utopia it would really become for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there just something different about living in the, I feel like Colorado and mountains and stuff? Is it just you're so immersed in the nature all around that I would imagine Florida is a lot more like density and there's people and it's just hot and like.
Yeah, and I just feel so free here. Like, you know, number one, there's no humidity. So I can walk out on a 95-degree day and I don't sweat. Whereas in Florida, it would look like I just jumped out of a pool because I'd be just completely drenched, and that's miserable. And you know, we went back to Florida for 1 year in 2018, so my wife could take care of her mom and be around her. She has advanced Alzheimer's. She's still hanging on, but we went back for a year, and I threw a few pieces in the garage where we were renting a house, and it, number one, took forever to dry, and when it did not perform the same as in Colorado. And so that was the only pottery I did for that year. But yeah, I don't know if you can identify either of you, but I feel like the mountains are where my soul is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you can tell from my complexion, the sun does not like me. So I definitely don't belong in the sunshine state. But yeah, it's just nice to get up and literally over the hill by our house, see Pikes Peak. And especially in the winter. I mean, Becca remembers, you know, the snow-capped mountains, you know, and especially, I mean, how close were you to Mount Rainier when you were in Washington?
I mean, you can obviously, I could see it every day, but I wasn't super close, probably like an hour and a half.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then Ryan, I did spend several years at Fort Campbell when I was in the Army. So I also know about Kentucky, and it wasn't too different than Florida, except the winters were colder. And we did get some snow, and I woke up several times with ice on my sleeping bag, you know, out in the field. So,
is Fort Campbell? Is that in? You said Tennessee earlier. Is that in Tennessee or is that in Kentucky? I'm trying to remember.
Right on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. Do you feel like you're going to be moving much? I feel like you moved a lot in your history, so it's like
I've
kind of settled, right? In the Colorado, you kind of got your spot.
Yeah, in fact, my wife and I have a plan. So we're starting late this month. We're going to start exploring. So we're going to Breckenridge for a couple of nights.
Oh, nice.
And we're gonna kind of go around the ski towns, because I envision, you know, retiring someday, which I don't know if I'll ever retire from ceramics, but having a studio in a ski town, and you know, having a nice spot where tourists can come and, you know, take pottery lessons or do some paint your own pottery, whatever it is. But that's what I visualize, like having the slopes right outside our door someday, because we have to drive a couple hours to get to where you can ski.
Yeah.
Where we live. Yeah,
I remember growing up in all the high schools in Aspen and stuff, and they never had class on Fridays. Because they would just go skiing. Like, it's a real thing. They had 4-day weeks.
Right.
And
it's crazy.
Yeah, because like most of them could just like go to the slopes from their houses. Like they just go.
It's a cultural thing for sure.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, because we always played all those schools in sports, because I went to a really small school. So we always played like Netherlands and like Aspen and all the schools that only had like 100 kids in them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
There's Charles making his appearance.
Charles.
He's a little bit louder than normal. I think.
We'll give him his time.
Yeah.
But
Trains.
yeah, as I understand it, Becca, you're never not near a train track, right?
I've never in my adult life, I've never worked nor lived not near a train track.
Okay.
As
That's
far
like
as I know.
You know, I've never lived in a city that's not like on a river, I guess. I mean, it's only 2 cities, but
Yeah.
like Louisville and Cincinnati, like we're both on the Ohio River. It's like, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
True.
you're always like right across from something.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, so you said you were in the military. I didn't learn too much about that from your past discussions with Paul, but when did you said you were in there for 4 years, is that correct?
4 years I was in the infantry,
In the infantry.
and it was about all I could bear.
What is the infantry
years.
like? I don't know what that entails.
Yeah.
Is that still stateside, or is that outside of the states, or what is that?
It can be. So when I had just gotten out, I mean, shortly before 9/11, I was still in what's called the individual ready reserve. So they could have called me back at any point.
Okay.
But essentially, the infantry is the first line. So when a conflict erupts, and a lot of times they'll send the Marines first, but the Army infantry units are really closely behind. So we would either, fly over to a friendly airport, and then my job was considered air assault. So we would get in helicopters and get, brought into whatever landing zone, and either they land the helicopters or we rappel out, disperse into the combat area. But I spent some time in Panama and some time in Korea, duty station wise, as well as the States. I never got to go with my unit to deploy to a conflict. We were really close in Korea several times, but that's not the same for some of my buddies in the military who did spend several tours in
Because
Afghanistan.
do you train together, and then a number of you go to different things based on your skill sets? Is that kind of how that works?
I mean, our infantry unit, we train just with the infantry soldiers, but yeah, so you have coordinated campaigns basically. So several different units would come into the same area, and then you each have certain specified grids on a map that you're dealing with.
Okay.
I can't even imagine why you'd be doing pottery right now.
Yeah. Oh.
So did you you said you did go to Korea and you went to Panama?
Yes.
Did you interact with were you like on bases, or was it like interacting with the citizens there and the culture and stuff like that?
Yeah, more so in Korea than Panama. Panama was really mainly just for jungle warfare training.
Wow.
Because there is always a possibility of us fighting in the jungles again. So they want us to be well-rounded. And then, spending time in California in the desert was urban terrain. So, of course, what they dealt with in Iran or Iraq and Afghanistan. And then in Korea, so I lived off base.
Okay.
I had to go on base every day for training. But yes, the locals are right there, literally right outside the post. And so we would interact with them frequently.
Gotcha. Do you still wear like attire that lets people know that that's who you are, or are you supposed to like blend more when you're there?
I mean,
that sounds like a dumb question. I don't know. Becca's like, what?
No, I'm just like, okay.
I'm just curious. I don't know.
Yeah. If you're on your personal time, you don't want to be in your uniform if you're not on duty.
Okay.
But when I left post for the day, I had my uniform on still, and I lived less than a mile away from the gate, so I just walked.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was
Cool.
interesting. Yeah.
So does it make you like, did your mindset change at all? Like when you're versus like being in different parts of the world in that kind of role versus, living, did you find yourself like doing things different, or your mindset was different once you got back, or like
Absolutely.
beforehand?
And the thing about Korea, I mean, there were only about 53,000 of us there. Now there's like 4 million North Korean soldiers. So if you do the math, right, if something were to kick off, it would be challenging for us at first, because we were like the first line of defense. if the North came down, they would attack Seoul. So our mission was between where my base was in Seoul to kind of help protect the cities. But I still put everything through a military filter. I can't do away with what has been ingrained. It's similarly like I've driven from Colorado to Florida several times. And if I'm by myself, I just drive 31 hours. I don't go to a hotel. I just stop to get food at the gas station, fuel up and go to the bathroom, and that's it. Well, of course, when I'm with my family, my wife and kids, I can't do that. We need to stop because, everyone needs a rest. But I can just really turn on the switch and just drive and I don't go to sleep. I stay awake till I get there. So basically.
So is that just like a trained discipline?
Yeah.
That you have? Okay.
I have that, and I wasn't even in the Army.
Oh, look at you, Becca. Maybe in a past life.
Yeah, probably.
Becca loves to drive. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I do. When we went on our road trip, there was like one time, I can't remember if I must have not like had very much sleep that night or something. Or I was getting sick. That's what it was. I was getting sick, and he drove for an hour, and then I took the rest.
It was more than an hour. It was like
2
maybe
hours.
2 hours, but yeah. I was like, hey, have at it. If you like it, have at it.
Yeah, right.
I'm a driver. I like driving.
I enjoy it too.
So what I want to know is about this past order that you did that it's like this big ass order that you just did, isn't it?
Yeah, those pictures were nuts. Seeing those shelves of pots.
Oh my gosh. That was surreal. Do you want me to just start talking about it, or do you have a question about it, Becca?
No, just start talking.
Tell us what the order. Yeah, like what is the order? Like how many pieces was it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't fire at home. There's a studio in Monument. Do you remember that town? Have you heard of that town, Becca? Monument. Okay. So there's a little place called Clay and Colors. So shout out to Clay and Colors. I'm a member there, and so basically I can fire my work. Now, there they have a large kiln, they have a medium, which would be that SCET 1027 style college classroom kiln, and then a smaller, like one ring smaller kiln. Okay, that's their setup. And I had anticipated, so I'll back up. They're the ones who gave me the order. So they basically sent me an email from the city of Castle Rock looking for a local potter. So normally what they would do would be, I guess buy the stuff from China and then get their logo put on it like so many other people do, and then sell them to their patrons for the Oktoberfest. So that's what it was for, the Oktoberfest. And so I got an email forwarded from the Clay and Colors, and then I responded saying I'm interested, and the Castle Rock and I talked later that day, and basically I told them about what I'm capable of. I had a 9-week window to finish 500 pieces.
Holy crap.
And it was because we were doing decals, it's another firing. So 30 firings was what it took. Now I was anticipating everything would be fine with the big, medium, and smaller kilns. My first bisque test firing I did with the large kiln, it didn't get the temperature. So immediately I was panicking. I mean, yeah, thankfully to my years of poker playing, I held my composure, like, okay, I'm not going to panic. I have plenty of time. We're doing this way ahead of time. And so I have an L&L kiln like yours, Ryan. It was just in my basement in storage. And so I asked them, could I bring it? Can we unplug the small one and plug my L&L there? Because I figured out mathematically, if I used both kilns, so the SCET and then the L&L, I could get it done, but I couldn't have got it done any other way, But yeah, so 9 weeks to do the 500 pieces. And immediately, what's different about my work than a lot of potters is I trim all my pieces. So there's foot rings and everything I do. Okay. And so, that takes extra time.
Right? Yeah.
So production potters that don't trim can get a lot more work done than me. I know that for sure. And so, but part of it for me was I wanted to know what I'm capable of. I had never gotten an order bigger than 10 pieces before that. And I used to think that was a lot.
500 pieces.
We went from 10 to 500. I respect that.
That's crazy.
You're crazy.
Yeah, so I've been told. But I want to say this: if it wasn't for my wife taking on the decal application responsibility,
Oh yeah.
I would not have gotten done, because here I am at the wheel, either throwing or trimming, and where I'm managing, going back and forth to Monument, bringing pieces, back that are finished, and she applies the decals. Then the next day I bring those back to fire them. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gotten done in time. There was just no way one person could have done all that, in that time period. I can say I've never felt like 9 weeks took so long and yet went by so quickly
Yeah.
in my life,
Jeez.
But we had on the wall, we had a calendar. I wish I didn't get rid of it, but basically we mapped out a production schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's this process. I mean, listening to both of you, like Ryan, I see your production a lot on your stories, and Becca, I hear you talking about it a lot. How many pieces you're throwing, and I've watched several of your lives, and so I thought about both of you so much during the process of this, because it's changed things about how I work. To be that organized, that's the only way to do it, as far as I'm concerned, to take care of what you have to take care of, and then plan for failures, because we had several pieces that maybe got out of round and the glaze firing, and just there's a lot to manage.
Did you feel like you had enough, like what was the meeting schedule with them early on? Like, did you feel like you had enough guidance and they weren't like going to be super picky about it? Or did you get like ounces, like general profile, and make test samples, and like, did you have to do all that up front, or did they kind of leave it to you to deliver?
For the most part, they left it to me. I brought some work to show them, and they saw an agate ware piece in the stuff that I brought them. I was just kind of giving them an example, and they liked the brown and white mixed clay, and they said,
you had to add that in. You had to add that in.
Yeah, I know, and if I do something, I'm going to do it all the way back. But yeah, they like, they wanted something, because we've been in lockdown essentially, or people just haven't been going out, and for a year and a half or so. They wanted something that would really stand out to people, and having a potter do it and make it every piece by hand, they felt like that would capture the attention of the attendees of the Oktoberfest. And so all they really wanted was the pieces would hold at least 12 ounces, because they were going to pour beer samples into them.
Right.
And so I made it so that the mug would hold 21 ounces, and the cup, because it was bigger, and it held about 18 ounces. So I got enough for them to, if it overflowed or whatever, if the suds got too tall or whatever, they would, it'd be enough to accommodate that.
So you made mugs and you made tumblers, like it was broken up?
Yeah. So I told them from the beginning, they wanted steins, that they were set on steins. And I said, look, handling 500 mugs in 9 weeks and making sure everything is free of cracks and the way you want it to be, the way I know you'd want it to be presented, is not possible. However, 250 would be, and 250 cups. If you would let me do that, then I can get it done for you. And they agreed.
Nice.
Love it.
And I'll tell you what was surreal. Number one was, so I sold them all to them before the event, and I got done with 2 days to spare. Yeah, that's how tight it was.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we deliver them an hour before the event. They had 100 available, which immediately sold. So then when the event started, in less than 2 hours, they were gone. So that was number one. Like they kept coming over, because we brought these bins where we had them all wrapped in paper. Everyone was individually wrapped. I don't want anything breaking, but they kept bringing bins back. I said, hey, I need those bins. So every time they bring the bins back, they're like, hey, we're running out. And then very soon they brought the last bin. They said, they're gone. My wife and I were like, oh my gosh.
Did they put an order in for next year already?
So yeah. So essentially I said to them, I don't assume you'll want to do this again, but I hope I'll be part of the conversation. And their response was, we're going to let you know, and we're going to be talking in January, so we can give you extra time.
Good.
And so
Great.
I'm like, I guess I landed it, landed it for next year.
We're so proud.
That's
thank
great.
you. I'm over the moon about it. It was incredible. And they let us sell have a booth that we could sell our own work. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I thought about you guys again because of how you talk about your shows. We had exponentially the best show ever on that night. And it was 1 to 9 p.m. And we had the booth lit and everything at night. And just
so those were your recent pictures that I
Yes.
saw. Okay.
Yeah.
It was from that event, and it was coincided with the Oktoberfest.
Right.
Okay.
And
wow.
I just remember saying to my wife, Tara, it's weird to look out and see people holding my work and walking around. I've never had that happen before. And usually you wrap it up and they take it home, and you might never see them again. Hopefully you'll get orders, But yeah, and so many people came by the booth to say, we love these. Thank you for making these. And just, I'm a very humble person. I don't like the spotlight. And that was like beaming the spotlight. And
yeah.
But I think people want to know you. They want to know what your story. They want to know why you're doing what you're doing. And it's an important piece. So I have to get used to that part. I think I have to get over that worry.
Yeah, and what's great in proximity, you didn't really Castle Rock isn't that far from Colorado Springs. So it's like
Right.
It's still part of your community in a sense. It's probably what is it, like a half hour away from you?
About 45 minutes.
45 minutes, which everybody else is like, that's so far. And if you're from Colorado, you're like, oh, an hour? You're
right,
my neighbor.
No big deal.
Yeah. So, like that community building that you already did, that is so cool. I'm so proud. That's awesome.
Wow.
Wow. And they're going to order 1,000 for next year.
That would be incredible if that happened. Yeah.
They will.
And, that's the thing is like, so I remember asking you, Ryan, on Instagram one day, I said, have you ever done a show about, I wanted it, I got it, now what? And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I left, so I worked at Apple, and I left April 30th of this year. And I guess I'm part of the mass resignation. I'm one of the statistics. I don't know if you've read about across America, people are resigning at like unprecedented amounts.
Huh.
And for me, being locked down and being at home gave me lots of time to think. I know what I want to do with my life. I know that it is in clay. It's just I'm one of those people who was worried about not having the security of the benefits and the insurance and the steady paycheck.
Right.
How am I going to make sure I can secure revenue for my family? Thankfully my wife still has her regular job as I'm building the business up. But that's kind of where I'm at in my head. Like, I wanted to be a production potter, and then this landed in my lap. So now I guess I can say I am,
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how do I go from here to the next step? And what is that? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Did you make that jump before you had that order officially, or was that order kind of what pushed you to?
No, I made the jump first. And I'll share that my mom died last year. And so ever since then, I can hear her saying to me, hey, Chris, don't waste your opportunities. Don't waste your talents. And she told me that a lot. And I guess I feel in a way that I have a responsibility. She was my last family member, and so of my immediate family. And I feel like I have a responsibility to do that, and as I shared with Paul, to be the light that my family cannot be. That's really where my head is. From when I wake up, what can I do today to impact someone's life, and to make sure I am going to leave a legacy on the planet. And literally too with pottery, like all three of us, someday someone could dig up our stuff thousands of years from now, and what is this?
It's a shitty cup.
They're gonna dig up a shit ton of stuff in Sultan, Washington, probably in 10 years.
It's one of Becca's shitty cups.
Wait, I have to say something really quick, Chris. When you get that $1,000 cup order for next year, you let me know, and I'll come out and I'll throw with you for a week.
Oh, that would be amazing, Becca. Yeah.
And she will do that.
I will. Actually,
she's serious.
Yeah, well, and plus
awesome.
my parents live in Loveland, so it's like I can just.
Okay.
They'd love to see me.
Well, I mean, if you're ever down here, let me know.
I will. I for sure will. I love that drive anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So okay.
I had a question.
Okay,
When you're like when you were saying your mom kind of like made you think of that, of like, you know, take those, I want to say, like, how did you phrase it? You said like, don't hold
Don't
yourself
waste your
back, or
talent.
yeah, don't waste
Yeah.
your talent. Did you feel like she or the rest of your family, your dad or whoever, like, did they take chances, or were they more reserved, or did they take a different approach to it, or?
So my father was a drag race car driver,
Oh,
as a hobby, and
Wow.
he definitely took risks in his life. So my sister, who in '97 was killed in a car accident, she took lots of risks in her short time. I was always the way more reserved. Like I would always stick my foot in the water, proverbially,
mm-hmm.
before jumping in.
Yeah.
Whereas my dad and the sister would just, they don't even know if there's water in there. They just jump in.
Yeah.
But over time in my life, I have taken some risks, moving to Colorado to leave the security, of my family support system, my wife's family support system, our steady jobs, to come out to somewhere we don't know anyone. We didn't have jobs. We had $20,000 in our pockets at the time, and and a place to live, and that was it. I think for me, taking some risk is comfortable. I don't know if either of you can relate, but sometimes I work better under pressure. Yeah,
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
the
probably.
deadline is coming, because, and I'll say this, like, and I've shared with you, Ryan, and you should know, Becca, your podcast is a staple in my studio, and I've listened to every episode, and some multiple times. In some ways, because I need that constant encouragement, even though you're not, I know why you're doing it, and one of the reasons is for your listeners. You want us to be encouraged, and I can tell you it has helped. But at the same time, like I broke some habits in this. I'm a procrastinator by nature, and
So am I.
yeah. And in my life, several times of letting the deadline fall and letting people down because of it. Like I did not want to start my pottery career that way. My full-time pottery career. I wanted to start it out the gate like that racehorse that just from the time the gate opens is gone. And I can look back now and have no regrets, and I don't have to say, oh, if I just would have done this or just would have done that. I did it, and I'm super happy about it.
It's really, honestly, like, as somebody who had the same thing happen to me, like just in a tiny different way, you're in a lot better spot where you are right now than I was in. But it does like propel you, when you do get something like this big order, it just really like shoots you off, and you're like, the most confidence I've ever had is when Starbucks was like, hey, we want your stuff, and we want 300 pieces from you. And that was like, oh shit. Like, okay, I guess I'm good enough. I
Yeah.
guess I'm good
Or
enough.
they don't know that I'm not good enough, and then you're like,
Or
okay,
yeah,
now I'm gonna live
or
up
they
to
don't
their
know I'm not good
expectations.
enough. So yeah,
Right.
and it's like this big confidence boost that's really, really helpful at the beginning of a career shift,
Yeah.
and I hope that it does. I think that it will. And like, you're already pretty established within the ceramics community, but especially like clay buddies and stuff. But I definitely hope and think that this will be a good starting out point for you, because that's a very good, solid first order to be like, I can do this. These are my, like, this is a skill that I have that I'm
Yeah.
able to finish. And yeah, it's hopefully the next time, whenever somebody gives you more than 9 weeks, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I do work that I have a friend that she does sandblasting on it after the glaze firing is done. And so she sent my name to a company who was looking for a ceramic artist.
Oh, nice.
And yes, and basically my meeting with this company, it happened around the same time as this big order. And essentially they're looking to resell my work, and with the amount of clients they have, they've already projected that they could probably sell my work to 10% of their clients, which would end up being, so minimum order would be 36 pieces. And they have around more than 2,000 clients. So 6,000 pieces was kind of like what was thrown out there. And here I am thinking, big gulp, like, okay, I just did 500.
Yeah.
6,000.
And then how did you feel after the 500? Are you ready to do another 500 in another like 9 weeks? Or
I'm ready. And one thing is that all of these there's no handles with this other company. They just want cups. Now there are decals on them, so there will be a third firing for all of it. But I feel so much more confident, about saying yes to something. To knowing
is that 6,000 in a year?
I don't think it would be, Becca. We wouldn't probably start I wouldn't probably be shipping till next May.
Oh, okay.
So it would give me some time to get some inventory built up. And then they would share with their clients, what the pieces would look like. So it'll be 3 different style cups, basically just different shapes. And they're agate ware, they're one's black and one's gray and white and one's brown and white. So we would just mix. The third one, just one of those other ones. But I don't know if I could do 6,000 in a year and have any kind of balance. So that's the concern. So immediately what's going on in my head is, okay, it can't just be me now. I will have to either have my wife come on to help me or hire a production potter to maybe they just trim. I have an 21-year-old son who said, Dad, is there any way I can be your dedicated trimmer? I said, well, we can talk about it. It's possible that, and I'd rather pay my family,
Right.
But the point being, like, I guess what's happened to me is thoughts and about the way my business needs to go. I didn't think it would be happening yet. I didn't think I'd already be, trying to materialize the plans for, okay, it's going to cost money to rent a commercial spot. How do I make sure I have enough revenue coming in to be able to handle the bills? Because I know there's been several podcasts, Becca, where you talk about the expenses of that.
And then how do you know that commitment is like realistic for what they say it could be versus like, or how much are they paying you like for the time that you're getting to that point where you're ready to be in a certain spot in the spring? So that like is there something in place that if like they decide to change things or ask for something different, that you're not like shit out of luck,
Exactly. Contingencies.
Yeah, I will say that definitely, like, where are you working right now? Are you working in your garage? Yeah, how big is your garage?
So it's a pretty big 2-car garage. I've got 4 wheels in here. And so literally I'll sit at one and throw and move to the other to trim.
Perfect.
That's how I kind of work that out.
Okay, well, because I'm gonna do this anyway, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. But so
I'm surprised you don't have a kiln yet at your house.
Well, we're renting, and our electrical panel won't handle a 60 amp breaker. And we get the difficult. HOA wouldn't allow that anyway.
Gotcha.
You can't move your washer?
Well, it's right by our bedroom.
Okay, well, anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is, don't underestimate what can be done in a small space.
Okay.
Now, like Rebecca, when she was starting out and she made 100K, 80K, somewhere in there for a year, I don't even know how much she made. I'm just guessing, but she did well. She was in a 600 square foot space.
Okay.
With an employee and like one employee, and they did it by themselves. It was her throwing and Mackenzie doing like the wedging and stuff. But like, don't underestimate the value of a small space, because it's free for one. And it's also, if you can work a good system, you can make almost anything work. If it means getting a shed out back to put all your finished pots in, that's a hell of a lot cheaper than renting someplace, or even getting a storage shed to put pots in that's $100 a month instead of renting a studio space that's $700 a month.
Yeah.
You're saving a hell of a lot more money doing it that way than you are, so use this to its end. Like, use your garage until you cannot use it anymore is my suggestion. But I mean, obviously you don't have to follow my suggestions, but also consider your trimming methods. I know you like your cups trimmed. Consider if there's a way that you can cut down the majority of the trimming time, because if you can,
they're all agate ware, right?
They are.
So the trimming really makes them shine.
So
because you have to rib the outside, right?
Well, what I do, one layer comes off, a very, very skinny layer comes off the outsides so that it can really bring the pattern out.
Yeah.
And then what I did though this time through this, I used to burnish everything.
Yeah.
So that I have removed that step.
Good.
I can actually burnish while I'm trimming instead of having a separate tool.
Yeah.
So that has changed. So that's 1/3 of the time it would take me.
Good.
Now, so, and I found that it didn't do any different in the glaze firing. So,
right. And so if you're doing like some sort of a foot on the outside, like see if you can use a tool for the foot. And if it doesn't mess up the integrity, especially if it's a cup, if it doesn't mess up the integrity of the pot, once you're done trimming the outsides and the sides, take it off and put it on something that's rounded so it just has a bump.
Yeah.
And so that way you don't have to worry about it. Like what we have at work is just like a rounded plaster, kind of like this,
like dome.
and a dome. Yeah, thank you. A dome, and and it just, we just like push it on it, and then your son or whoever can do that, and there's no talent involved. They're like, even if he does have talent, it's you can set them all down and then do them all at once with that. And so and I don't know how the cups look or anything, but consider options like that cut down your time, that don't like mess up the integrity of the pot. Okay.
Yeah. I think one of you alluded to something on one of your podcasts, but I was envisioning making some kind of plaster thing that had a raised up middle that I could attach to the wheel. Center on that. Probably, yeah. Center on that. And when it is removed, it's already got the indentions that I need. I just can't get around how to actually make that. But that was one thing I was thinking.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that you could do it. The only problem with that is that you'd have to make sure that it had the right angle. So when it did pop off, it
can't be a straight angle because it's going to shrink,
angle up
right?
and down. It has to slide off.
Okay.
So it would have to be a slope.
Yeah, it's tough, but the hard lesson that I learned at the end of the day is that the only people that care about the bottoms of pots are potters.
I know.
So, I mean, the only thing they care about is if it doesn't scratch their table.
Yeah.
But that's really the only like a good looking pot on the bottom, you can make it look good and make it be easy as well. It's just has,
or price it appropriately. Like if you're going to put a trim foot on it, then price it more than if you're going to do the bump thing like Becca's talking about.
For sure.
Yeah.
You'll find the more that you work, you'll find things that you're like, I don't have to do this. Why am I doing this? We all do that. It's like, it's even when you're pulling, right? Like the other day I was making crumbles, and I always put water on the first pull and then the second pull, and then I kept on putting water on the third pull to shape it, and I was like, I don't need to do that. And I eliminated the water on the third pull, and it makes it faster, and it's like a second faster, but it still makes it faster. So like you'll find things, especially once you start throwing 1,000 mugs over and over again, just don't zone out. Zone in. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that I've been learning about myself and the way that I throw, is that I don't actually zone out when I throw. I zone in, and I figure out exactly what I'm doing so that I can do it faster the next time. So
like for instance, I used to cone 3 times. That's what my instructor did in college. And I through this process of making all these pieces, I cone once and it's still setting. So yeah, so like trying to, even if it's a second per pot, just trying to eliminate little things so that it doesn't take me as long, because there were some long days at the wheel.
And are you like wedging the pieces or?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't wedge anything. Like if I'm cutting it right off the block, well, I pay somebody to do that, but they cut it. I'm like, hey, if it's 1.5 pounds or less, you don't have to wedge it. Just put it into a ball. I'll cone up and cone down and it'll be wedged. Like that's a wasted step for me to say like, hey, you need to wedge every single one of these. But I don't know. Becca probably agrees. She throws a lot more than I do. So what do they do at work when they're throwing production stuff?
Well, we use a pug mill, so not even relative. But yeah, I mean, Leanne from Alon Pottery doesn't wedge either. I've always just cut straight off the block. And like if you feel like you need to, just drop it on the ground a few times and then cut it off. That's what I would say. If you are wedging, and you want to eliminate that step, just drop it on the ground a few times. The block.
Yeah. The hard part is with agate where.
Oh, you have to.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, you can't.
Oh, you're just making your work harder on you.
And the thing is, the weird thing about the agate ware, the interesting thing is in class, I think it was second semester, my instructor knelt down by my wheel and said, hey, have you ever thought about mixing 2 clay bodies together? And I said, no. He said, do it. And so, the bowl I made, I'm not happy about. But the point is, that's the way I wanted to kind of differentiate myself in the pottery world was with agate ware. But yes, it has added work. There's no way. I mean, gosh, I thought to myself, and I even tried to sell the job as just white mugs. Just white clay with clear glaze, because I knew how much easier on my time it would be. But I would say 1/3 of all the hours I spent was prepping.
Yeah.
Can you hire your son to do that? Teach him how to do it?
He was pretty specific. He wanted to do trimming.
Oh, that's okay. Just find somebody not related to you that can prep, because that'll save your body too. Because that's
right.
I mean.
Yeah, you're much more valuable throwing the pieces and getting to the finished product than prepping the clay.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna. You're not old, but you are older than us, and like you have a 21-year-old son, so clearly you are older than us. But your body is precious, and and you'd we need you to live long. And wedging is not going to help that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it really has put me in a different headspace, thinking about how do I make this easier,
Yeah.
Because if it really is, if it's making thousands and thousands of pieces as a production potter, I mean, I am going to have to have help,
Yeah. Well, and I wonder, has anybody ever have any of us ever seen a pug mill that pugs out like mixed, that's not like super mixed?
I don't know. I guess it would depend on how much you mix it, right?
I would imagine. Like you could just drop it in, and like if it was a Peter pugger, you could just drop it in real quick and then pug it out real quick.
That'd be a good like test, like mixing for 2 minutes and then mixing for 4 minutes and seeing like what the result is.
Yeah, if somebody's done that, could you please like email us? We want to know.
And then you could have consistency because pretty much what it looks like.
Yeah,
20 pounds of this and 5 pounds of this yields it to look like this.
Yeah, that might be a super valuable investment if it did work out,
Right.
So I have a question going back to your 500 order. How much did you sell them for?
So the job was $10,000.
Well played.
And, they told me in the meeting that it's more than their budget, like it's more than they usually spend. And so that added some pressure to me, to think about, okay, so if they're taking a chance, then I want to make sure what is delivered is going to knock their socks off.
Right.
And
so the mugs, how much were the mugs each?
So each piece was $20.
$20. Oh, mugs or cup?
Yeah.
So they just told you like this was our budget, so everything's $20 a piece. And then you kind of I mean, you could mathematically think like, okay, the mugs are 25 and the tumblers are 15 because it all maths out to the same thing. Is that what you were getting to, Becca?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and I got to a place of like, I'd never thrown 50 in a day before this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had a whole 6-foot table full. I said, Tara, come out and check this out. And she was like, wow, that's a lot of pieces. And then I kind of refined it to, okay, I'm not going to sit down and throw 50 because if I have to handle them, it is I don't want to spray them down. I would rather let them harden up, flip them over, maybe cover them for the night. Next day, uncover, let them dry enough to trim without having to go back with a water bottle because it's so you cannot get the same moisture to be even again, or they get too wet, but my process did change, with how especially.
So you kind of knew your threshold and then
yeah.
what you were comfortable trimming the next day and then whatnot.
So now after all of the order and everything, what's your comfy zone? What's your comfy zone of numbers, pieces to throw during a day and pieces to trim during a day?
So how I'm going to approach it going forward is I'm going to set a schedule where Monday, if I'm doing production, like, so let's take out my orders that I have, like just sitting, waiting.
Right.
For production work, Monday, I'm going to throw 20 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, I'm going to throw 20 pieces and trim the 20 for Monday. Wednesday, the same thing, all the way through to Friday. We'll be trimming the 20 from Thursday. So there'll be 100. It could be 100 a week that are processed. Now, if they have to be handled, that adds extra time. But if it's just the cups, then I think that's a reasonable, that way, because literally, and this isn't a complaint, like if anyone from the city of Castle Rock were to hear this, I don't want it to sound like a complaint. Like I just didn't have a balance. The only way to get this done was to, and I'm a night owl too. So like I had to have a balance with being awake for the kids, being awake for my wife, but then getting the work done. And it was just so many hours, and so many very late nights. And then you add in glazing, because it used to be I would take the piece and sponge off the foot ring, after glazing, because I don't use wax. So I developed a method of taking 2 towels, wet them and squeeze them out, and I put them on a table with clamps. The first towel, I take the piece back and forth, and it's clean. Second piece, I just make sure it's clean. Literally takes 5 seconds. Yeah?
Carpet.
Becca, that's how you do it? Carpet. Okay.
Carpet. Short shag carpet. Yeah, same thing, but it's a little bit sturdier. But when you clamp it, like if you don't need to clamp it, but clamping, it's a great idea. But yeah, carpet. I think it would be a little shorter than the towels, but I like the towel idea. It's very cheap, but you can get a foot of carpet from Lowe's for $2.
Okay. Yeah. True.
I've literally gone in there and been like, could I just have a foot?
A lot of studios will have the carpet and they'll have like a cookie sheet, like an old cookie sheet, and they'll just sponge water into it with the carpet, and you sponge it, or you wipe it on the carpet, and then you can just like add water to the cookie sheet or rinse it.
I do like the towel though, because that's a lot easier to clean off.
It is, and you literally can go back to the sink and wring it out into, if you're saving your glaze, into your mystery bucket or whatever, wring it out and then put it back on the table and go. So I like the towel thing. Thank you. Yeah, it saved me so much time. It was toward the end that I developed it, and so now I'm thinking about, okay, this is going to make everything way easier, except bowls. That's going to be challenging, but I haven't thought through that enough yet. But
oh no, it's easy on bowls. When you do your foot, you just glaze the whole piece.
Okay, I was worried about how I was going to hold the bowl and bring it back and forth across the towel. Because the cup is easier. You can wrap your hand around it.
Oh. Well, what you also could do is use a big sponge, and you could just wipe it really quickly with a big sponge, like a car sponge. But but once it's dry, it should be fine.
Yeah, like I would like tong stuff, set it down, and then like maybe go back and wipe after it's dry, because
After
that
it's
way
dry.
it's like grippier maybe. Like you kind of have
It
the
is,
wet
yeah.
carpet and it just kind of pulls it right off.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
glaze 50 pieces, and then by the time
And
I was
then
done with the last
sponge
one,
off.
start with the first one, and then do the towel on both.
Yeah, I think that you'll actually find that bowls are a lot better because it's a lot less surface area. So,
Okay.
Well, he has
Yeah.
trimmed feet on his mugs though.
I just thought about that while I was saying that, and I
Well,
decided
It's probably
not to
similar.
back up. I decided not to back out of my comment, but then you came in.
So
And
here, I'll
ruined
show
it.
you. I made some. I kept one each for myself.
As you should.
So see how I did the bottoms? Everything's
Yeah.
signed, and then I have a decal on the bottom. And
So that's glazed inside the foot there?
it is
Yeah.
glazed, yeah. So just the
Okay.
foot ring is the only thing that gets wiped. And what I like about the towel method is it's really
You
just
can't even see it.
just above where the piece meets the surface of what it's sitting on.
Yeah.
So, it is the way I want the pieces to look, but both of you make a compelling argument for trying to figure out ways, because let's say my pieces were flat bottomed. I mean, that eliminates so many hours of trimming. I could get that many more pieces made. That's kind of where I'm meandering as we speak.
I didn't even
about
realize that was agate ware when I saw them on the shelves. I thought it was just like a
Oh.
creamy white mug.
Looks like marble. I mean, well, and it doesn't even have to be a flat bottom. It can be a concave bottom. And you could even do a sharp concave. You just have to figure out a method to make it that sharp.
Yeah.
That's just as faster. That is faster than trimming. Because if it's not faster than trimming, then it doesn't make any sense. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so I will be thinking through that. Is there a way, to make it easier and less time consuming?
So wait, how many kids do you have? This is random, but how many kids do you have?
That's okay. We have 5, and so we have 3 adult kids, 28, 21, and 18, and 2. So our sons are 28 and 21. Our daughters are 18, 9, and 7.
Oh,
Wow.
you can put the 9 and 7-year-old to work.
Good. Wedge this clay.
Yeah, heck yeah. 18-year-old too, but still, I'd put that 9-year-old to work. I used to make all my friends' kids that were that age work for me.
Really? Yeah, I can
I have
motivate
no
them
shame.
for less dollar amount than
Or
some
friends
adult,
friends of your children's friends of your children,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even if they're just putting the clay together,
Right.
that's
like, hey,
even
weigh out
like a huge
weigh out
saving.
X number of balls of red clay and X number of balls of white clay, and then you have some way of putting them together, but
Yeah.
they already have it weighed out for you.
Yeah.
Well, I had my wife. So one thing I did have her do is, instead of me wedging, like if my day was 50 to throw 50, instead of her wedging or me wedging 50, I had her make. So they were each 1.5 pounds. So I had her make a 3-pound block for me, and make enough that I could make 50. And then I just wedged the whole 3-pound block and cut it in half. So that divided my wedging time in half at least.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oof.
Whew.
I need a massage.
I feel you. I just got done making 1,500 wine glasses in 2 weeks, so
Oh wow, Becca.
I mean, I didn't do the whole process, so like if I had
Yeah.
done the whole process, it probably would have taken me just as long as you. But
So the amount of things you can make though is astounding to me. Really.
there's a girl at work that I think is better than I am. And yeah, she hasn't been throwing production as long as me, but I think she's going to be better than me pretty soon. It's mostly because she has the
Attention span?
Yeah, that. And
The focus,
I just
the
want
attention
everybody
span?
to know that was not staged.
No, I just complete your sentences, I just know you.
Yeah. I you know what? I can be that way where I'm not focused. And then I can be extremely focused. And I don't know what the catalysts are for. Maybe it's enough rest, or
God, I wish we knew.
Starting at a particular time in the day. But I really do want to have a balance. It's easy for me to kind of zone in and do this order, but then one of our daughters would come to me daily almost and say, Dad, are you going to hang out with us tonight? Or, and I kept on saying, honey, as soon as this order is done. And, she's not old enough to differentiate because I was cleaning up the studio and she said, do you have to do more work? And I said, yes. And she got a little upset and I said, it's not like the big order, honey. It's not like that right now. So that keyed me into, hey, you can't just sit in your studio. You're going to have to segment your life. And how are you going to do that is the big question, And so to your question earlier, Becca, that schedule of throwing, 20 and then trimming 20, that I really do want to see how that works, because if I can do that while they're in school and then be done, by the time I get home, I mean, maybe I can achieve that,
Oh my God. If we could just be on the same schedule, or if you do have kids and be on the same schedule as your kids, when they're at school, that not only will make your life so much less stress, but the way that me and Ryan work, because we don't have any kids, is we have the ability to put all of our time within the studio. But the thing about it is that once you start doing that, it's really hard to stop. And if you start with a schedule that's dedicated to 8 hours a day, you're going to be so much better off mentally in the long run. And really, at the end of the day, it is just clay. And, your family is super important. And that, and I think it's great that you're thinking about that now, because, it's hard to revert back to, and yeah, definitely. I'm so glad you came on the podcast now, because that is a really important message to say, because what you're talking about is so important. We need to make time for our families, and that's you can't treat pottery like your life if it's your job. You need to treat it like a job, and it's hard, but you got to do it.
Well, and there is that aspect of what clay does, because for me, it's been very transformative. And when I, because I teach as well here, so I can see, live what's happening with other people, making those connections, learning how to throw something taller, learning how to attach something that doesn't crack and things like that. And I mean, I had a lady who had dreamt of trying pottery for most of her adult life, and she was literally crying at the wheel because she had the chance to do it, So it's so powerful and there's so many potters I know that it's their Zen place in their life, and it's their therapy. It's easy to place more focus there because you feel good. You can forget, because, for me, it has unsaddled me of everything I used to carry around. And so when I'm at the wheel, I don't have to think about that stuff, And so beyond just with your family, you need to be able to have a break for yourself too. You need a balance to, whether it is get out and exercise or, sit down and watch a movie. I almost had to force myself to watch TV during this time, just because I was so focused on getting this done.
You feel guilty not being in the studio.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Side note, when I watched all the Marvel movies, I had to watch them at midnight because I felt so guilty.
Yeah.
After work hours, okay, the only time that I'm taking this away from is my sleep, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a very crucial point about balance.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that's gonna manifest once because now it's your end all be all, that's your full-time job. So how do you I struggle with that, because I'm figuring out at this point now I use all of my time that I can possibly get away with in pottery, and it's you work until you're exhausted for the night, where you're at the edge of okay, I'm tired, I want to go to bed, versus okay, I really have an extra hour and a half in me, but I'm gonna stop. So it's that's what I struggle with.
Yeah,
it is. And it's easy to make your own interpretations when you see people's stories. You don't know the whole picture. For instance, Ryan, sometimes you're up till midnight or a little bit later finishing your last story, and this is I'm loading the kiln for the night. When maybe people don't know you work a regular full-time job all day.
Yeah.
And I guess for me in my life, that ability to dedicate all of myself to something is there. But what happens is other things suffer because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, literally like 9 weeks without getting up from the wheel, essentially no other exercise. That's not good, for your body. Like I would get up and my knees would really be hurting, my back, really be hurting. And, I think for me, it's like, if you're going to do this long term, Chris, you need to set an alarm every hour or whatever it is, stand up and stretch. I mean,
do some yoga or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to think about and kind of pull apart here to extrapolate, but it is hard, Ryan. It's hard to establish.
Charles.
Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
He agrees.
It's funny because every time at work I'm like, "Oh, hi, Charles," and they're like, "How do you know that's the same train?" And I'm like, "I know."
They think you're talking about the conductor.
I don't know.
Oh, so there's a train that goes by the Studio Monument, but literally, like, I don't know how far you are from the tracks there, Becca, but we're probably whatever the minimum distance legally would be from the track.
That's how my old shop was.
Yeah, super loud.
That's how my old shop was. This is literally a parking lot. So there's 4 parking lot spaces. So probably, I don't know, 4 car lengths plus the roadway between, and then the train.
Okay.
So
pretty close. Yeah.
It's pretty damn close. And then there's 2 of them. There's 2. Wow. There's 2 tracks. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I've had jobs like Sherwin-Williams wanted to answer the phone, and I'd be like, "Welcome, thank you for calling Sherwin-Williams." Hold on.
Yeah. Funny.
So. But at work, we're literally, you could throw a rock and it would hit the train. So. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Enough about trains.
Well, may I say something about price?
Oh,
yes. I would love to hear what you got about price.
Good, because it's several of the listener questions have come through time and time again about that, and it's not easy, as both of you have said, and can attest to. So I had to break the barrier of, if my friend is buying my pottery, I want to charge them less. That was a struggle at first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I started to think about, Chris, what's your time worth? Do you want to make what you made at Apple? And the answer was no. I want to make more. Why do I want to stay the same pay rate? I want to make more. Like I can have that control. And so one thing I did for myself that's helped is I started a mug club where people pay a subscription for I release 4 mugs a year, and I'm charging $75 a mug.
Hell yeah.
And some, like a guy contacted me a couple days ago to make mugs for his wedding, and I'm charging more than $100 for each mug. They're personalized, they're large, they're like 30-ounce mugs, and he didn't bat an eye, And so
nice.
for anybody out there who is struggling with it, is you have to ask yourself that question. I had a lady come into my booth one day and say, she picked up a bowl and put it back down, kind of a little bit rough, and said, how do you justify your prices? And without skipping a beat, I said, how do you justify your hourly rate at your job? And she said, I don't understand why you're speaking to me that way. I said, well, you can't just assume that this is a hobby and that I'm going to barter with you over what I'm providing for my family here.
Yeah.
And so I charge what I charge. I mean, I said, if you don't appreciate that and you don't like the price, I mean, that's not for you. My pottery is not for you. And that's basically how I had to end up, segmenting the process is, you can't think of it as, well, it's just a hobby. Even if it is, you still deserve to get paid what it's worth.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you don't change your price for a large order. You don't bring it deep. You know, no one's going to pay $60 a mug for 5,000, 500 mugs or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but the point being, you need to identify what it is that your time is worth, and once you do that, then those are your prices. And if someone doesn't want to pay it, then whether friend, family,
or foe.
Yeah. So I don't
That's
know.
true.
It just came into my mind that something I wanted to say.
Did you feel it was really tough at the beginning of because I'm guessing at the 500 you had to give them a number. You had to tell them this is what it's going to cost.
So yeah, I mean they ended up sharing with me that this is the most we'll pay. And I said, okay, I mean that's reasonable, I said, you need to understand that it's about a third of what I would charge for the pieces. And they said, oh, okay. And I said, but because of the number, I mean, there's no way that I can charge what I would normally charge, So that's kind of next for me is like, at what interval do I break down, the prices? If it's 100, what do I charge? If it's 250, what do I charge? Where do I start breaking it down more? That's kind of what I want to work on.
Yeah. I mean, Becca said it multiple times. It's not easier making 100 of something versus 10 of something.
No, if anything, it's harder. You're managing a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you are appreciative of the consistency and the you can see the impact and they can see the impact of like the people that buy it in 2 hours. Like you put 9 weeks of work in, which probably should have been like double that amount of time to get it done or something. And it's like,
I mean, they're still making money. That's also the thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, especially now, like they're like, oh, our budget is this, but how much did they sell them for?
Yeah, so the cups were $12.32 and the steins were $34. So they made 12 and 14 respectively.
Yeah, and I mean $1 is $1, so they made back. That's the thing, right? Like their budget is
what they're willing to part with before they sell them.
Before they sell them, but if you're guaranteed to sell them, like that is a guaranteed sold situation. Like unless nobody comes to Oktoberfest, come on. Come on. If it's your mug for Oktoberfest, you're going to sell all of them, especially if they're going to be handmade and in good quality. Like that's an easy way to be like, you know what? I know that it might be out of your budget, but
I mean, like Becca's talked about before with the wholesale, they can charge whatever they want if you're comfortable with them doing that. Like, if you would retail it for 40 or 45, then like suggest that to them. Hey, you can sell this for 40 or 45. Like, it might not sell in 2 hours. It might take 4 hours or something, or
Yeah, and
it's kind of up to their.
Yeah, maybe that's.
But they're going to make more money.
Yeah, maybe that's an indication that they need to up their prices and make it a little more of a novelty item, and you guys both win.
Well, and at the price point it was, I mean, I literally do feel like I won because in 9 weeks I made a quarter of my yearly salary.
Oh, totally. I feel like you won as well. I don't think that I think that it was a great price for that. And I mean, like, and I just, especially when companies come back and say, this is our budget. It's like, okay, well, it would be your budget if you were spending this money and it was leaving, but you're spending this money and it's literally coming back to you with $12 on top. So
you're making money. Plus people have the memory of like what they got quality wise from that event.
Yeah.
Like,
next year, are you going to number them?
I feel like you benefited them by making all these, more so than like, them just getting some China ones and spending less money,
Yeah, you put the year on it, right?
I did.
Okay, yeah, next year, definitely number them. People love that shit. They're like, I want number 55. Like,
there's one right there.
Okay, I did the 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying, so then, and also where I signed, I don't know how hard it'll be to see, but their 21 is there on every piece. But you're saying number them 1 through 500?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And make it distinctive so people can see the number.
And if you do like a 1 over 500, 2 over 500, 4 over 500 or whatever, people will be like, they'll come back the next year and be like, I have to have 2. I have to have number 2. I'm telling you, it's fucking insane. Like, the number on the bottom makes a lot of difference.
Well, you're right. And I belong to a coffee enthusiast group on Facebook, and they buy mugs, like, for instance, Death Wish Coffee. So they trade and sell. And I mean, I've seen on eBay, like, let's say you had mug 500 of 2,500, like it's maybe sought after, or every mug in their collection is number 500 of whatever, right? So you're right. Those are important attributes.
Yeah, that you wouldn't normally think. But
I never even thought of that. I mean,
with an Oktoberfest or anything that's every year, oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, you are making my neurotransmitters go crazy right now.
It's a good thing you have a notepad in front of you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember, because I did Oktoberfest mugs as well in Leavenworth, and the first set that I did, one of the guys that's a photographer that does the booths, he would buy one every single year, and he had to have a specific number. That was
Okay.
like he wanted this number. I think he was actually always number one.
Oh wow.
And so yeah, so it was really important to him.
Do you have a suggestion for when that number should be on there? Should it be on at greenware? Should it be on as a decal?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if you
Do you have issues in parts of the process that, like, you had more loss?
Oh, that also doesn't matter.
So yeah, so the only time I lost something was a couple during trimming.
Mm-hmm.
I used the clay lugs and I didn't stick it down well enough, and so it just tipped over and ran around, the splash pan. And then a couple that went out of round after the glaze firing. But when we were talking about that a moment ago, I was thinking, okay, maybe doing it as a decal might be cool, because then I don't have to worry that something that I was transporting greenware wise from my house, say it was number 10 of 500, broke on the way to which that didn't happen, thankfully, but broke on the way there, and then I have to remake and trim the 10 of 500 again, But if I did it as a decal, but I don't know how they would perceive it. Would it feel the same?
Becca.
In my opinion, it doesn't matter. You could make 2 5 of 500s and nobody would care.
Oh, you're saying don't even there's only one of this number 5.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, if you fucked up and you had to redo one, I don't think it really matters. And then the ones that were extra, you could always just put it with a decal and nobody would know the difference.
Yeah.
No. Whatever you do, it's not
nobody's tracking down all 500 of them to make sure they're the only one.
Or asking what number do you have?
No, if anything, they'll be excited because they're like, oh, there's another 5 of 500, so yeah.
Okay. No, I really like that idea.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
You said earlier you said you teach too. Do you teach to kind of balance out the alone time you have in the studio, or what kind of got you into wanting to teach people and I see you do date nights and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I actually, when I went to college straight out of the Army, I was an education major. And so I planned on being an elementary school teacher, or actually I would have been certified K through 12. But when my sister was killed, I left school to go back to Florida. But I've always been interested in teaching people things. Like I remember when I was a Boy Scout, I was always called on, Chris, show us that knot, show us how to tie that knot. Can you do that knot one-handed and show us? And so I've always wanted to impart my knowledge, in the Army. It was that, how do you get your boots shiny like that, Chris? I can see myself in your boots. How do you do that? So I guess I always had a knack for being able to break down a process and explain it and show it. And so, I'll quote verbatim what a master MFA student told me after a date night. She said, Chris, I've learned more in 2 hours than I learned in some of my year-long classes. And I was like, what? Wow, that was a tremendous compliment. I don't know if I deserved that, but so I've just always enjoyed.
Wait,
I feel like his audio cut out for a second.
Oh, okay. Did you hear?
Okay. Okay. We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually feel like I can feel that essence from you. I'm not gonna lie, like
Oh,
that.
thank
You
you.
have a very calm spirit, so I feel like you have that like patience to like really get down to the nitty gritty of something.
Really, yeah. I try to extrapolate, like, how in some pottery classes they have every, when you center and they have a piece of clay that's been bisque fired, and then when you drill a hole, like all that. Instead of having that in the studio, I show my students, as we're making, and just building. I try to really build on those basics once they reach the place where they can center the clay. And
Yeah.
I see lots of doubt. People come in, and trying to dispel that. Like in my own life, I remember thinking, I can't do that. That was my internal conversation. Or, are you sure you can do that? And that's kind of harmful, if you're really trying to do something with your life. And it's not good to have that, kind of conversation going on, with yourself. Instead, it should be, when I do this, or after I do this. That's kind of, you have to change it, just the semantics a tiny bit. But I appreciate that compliment, Becca. Thank you.
Wait, I have a question also that might
Sure.
might be opposite of the compliment.
I don't know what's coming.
I don't either. Get
Have
ready.
you? I'm just asking this because I've had this happen to me. Have you ever had a student that just did not fucking get it? Like they were like, and you just were like, I can't. Like I can't
do anymore. I can't do anything for you.
Have you ever had a student like that?
I've had some students who didn't get some of the basics, and I just changed the strategy.
Okay.
And so, or like, I'm very sensitive to like people's personal bubble. So in the beginning of every class, I will say, part of this is maybe me helping you at your wheel, as long as you're comfortable with that. So I kind of get the idea, because some people have sensory issues and they don't want to be touched or whatever. So, but there's one thing. So obviously centering is one of the most difficult parts of this process when you're first learning. And I'll have my closed hand, and I'll put it on the back of their arm that is going to be down and centering, just to show them, like, if it's out of round, and I put a little pressure on their arm until it gets to center, and I say, that's the additional pressure you need to place. Just an example.
God, on their arm, like the back of their elbow.
Yeah. So right back here, just push.
Oh, that's good.
So that number one, like, and I've seen instructors that get behind the student with their hands, but on the back of their arm. So
See,
to demonstrate the pressure.
I put my hands on top of their hands and put the pressure in.
Yeah.
But the arm thing, that makes so much more sense. Oh.
Because they're controlling their pressure.
You can drop that mic that's not plugged in right now. You can just drop it on the floor.
Just drop it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll probably use that with my date night people here soon.
Do it, yeah. And it helps, because like, I've had several men that have come through that are muscular, and you would think, right, that guy that's got some huge muscles, but it's the same process for everyone. That's a difficult thing to get your body in the right position. So so I've helped.
It's definitely a pressure game, and like the pulls, like how much pressure to put on a pull.
Yeah.
Inside, outside, the speed, the speed of the wheel, the water, all that
so
kind of factors in.
And you know what else is? I focus on success in my classes. So helping the student achieve success. So, making their first little, because they'll come in with, these visions of grandeur. I want to make a big mug.
Oh, yeah.
Or I want to make a big bowl or a pitcher. And I say pretty quickly, I mean, I can appreciate that. And if you want to stay in class with me long enough, we will get you there. But we want to make a piece that doesn't crack in the bottom, when you bisque fire, or in the drying process. Let's focus on things that are going to build upon themselves. And because in one of my classes, one of the instructors said that his instructor would just come through, and if he didn't like your pot, he would just wreck it on the wheel.
That's fucked up.
That's terrible.
And I'm like, wow. So, from a very early time in my ceramics life, I decided, if I teach, I want to make sure I focus on success. building up, you know?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I did the same thing when I taught, and you know what? Like,
You smash people's pieces?
yeah, I smash people's pieces.
I
Can't you
like that.
just see me just fucking like smashing? So I would probably like throw a baseball at somebody's wheel or something.
Pressure
No.
lip, pressure rim.
Compressor rim. I do that though. Like I will yell across the fucking
Oh
room.
my God.
I'd be like, compressor rim, and they're like, who are you talking to? You. Like,
You know who I'm talking to.
but no, I mean like it's, you know, a class, especially when you have so many different people in a class. Like
Yeah.
some people are just there to just get away from their children. And
Yeah.
some people are there to be long term, but I always would ask at the beginning of a class, like, what's your goal here? Like, what do you want? Do you want to have fun? Do you want to get down to the nitty gritty? Do you want to like drink wine and get drunk? Like, what's your goal here? You know, because I will approach you in that way, you know, and like I'm going to teach you the best I can. But if you don't get it and you're just having a fucking blast, I'm not going to touch you. I'm not like, I had Gary. Oh my God, Gary was the worst thrower I've ever seen in my life. He would throw these like weird things, and I tried to teach him, and then he would spend 25 minutes manipulating the piece that he had kind of made into like this weird sculpture, and it was just like super creative. I'm like, Gary, you just do your thing. I don't want to talk to you. You know what? It's not worth me trying. And he ended up buying his own kiln. He ended up doing his own hand building stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to let him do it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, like that was the biggest thing for me. I know there's a lot of controversy because they're like, well, you're not teaching very good students. And I'm like, but they're not good students.
You're trying to fit them into a box of what you expect of result to be. It's like some classes are just to have fun, and like they're just trying to do something fun and like enjoy their time.
Yeah.
They're not trying to.
They don't want to be good students. They just want to come and enjoy their hour. You know, like, and there of course are some people that want to be good students. Like I asked you that question if you ever had a person just not like you couldn't teach, and I actually had somebody that I literally could not teach.
Okay.
She had too much information in her brain, and I had to let her just be. And by doing that, by walking away and saying, you know what, I'm just going to let you be, and if you have a very specific question, I will help you. She became one of the better students in the class.
Okay. I did have a student who the process stressed her out. Yeah. Because I would, of course, it's kind of like when you buy a piece of pottery. You know, you're not just buying that piece of pottery, you're buying the expertise, right? Of the ceramic artist. And so she would say, okay, Chris, I'm having trouble lifting. So show me, demonstrate. So she would sit just to my right so she could see my hands. And of course, as we're doing it, and we've done it thousands of times, it's muscle memory at this point. And it looks a lot. And I say to date nights and to regular students, disclaimer time, folks. What I'm going to show you is going to look way easier than it really is. I just want to make sure you know that going in. And so this would just stress her out. And finally, I just sat with her and we did it one step at a time together, just next to each other. I said, you do what I do, you know, so she could center, thankfully, after a bit, but then the rest of it was challenging, you know. And I think people don't realize as a whole just how many hours of practice it really does take to get to the place where you can master the basics.
For sure. I've, like I said, I'm not a very nice person apparently, but people will be like, well, why can't I do this? And I'm like, because you've only been here for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Between this time and last time, it's only been 5 hours. Did you learn your job in 5 hours?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to look at a YouTube video, you know, but it's a lot harder to sit down and do the thing.
Put the time in.
Yeah. But you're right, you know, and when someone is feeling that way, I say to them, okay, what is it that you do for a living? Oh, I'm a paralegal. Okay, so imagine me walking into your office and they give me a task. I don't know, what do I do? Someone has to show me, you know, so you can't think of it like I'm just going to sit down on the wheel and do that. You know, you have to give it the time and, you know, be fair to yourself, you know. So it really is. It is about building them up. And I think both of you know, like in life, we do enough tearing down. You know, you see it every day in the news, you know, or you see it within yourself. I mean, I spent so many years, you know, just not having a good self-esteem, and it took ceramics to really get me to the place where I feel like I can be accepted anywhere I go, because I don't need that approval of anybody anymore. You know, it took me finding that thing that I could do, that I could carry my own weight in my life, to get me to the place where I stopped being concerned about it. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's good that we're talking about this, because it's just good. There's a lot of people out there that teach these small classes and stuff that, man, teaching's hard.
It is hard.
People don't give teachers enough credit ever already, but like, especially when you're doing something that is so tactile like this, like I thought that I would be totally fine, you know, when I started teaching.
Yeah.
No. I was so bad. I feel so bad for my first students. I'm so bad.
Yeah, I think the customizing the teaching, like you have to customize your curriculum to the person, right? So you got to you know, see their goals. Like Becca's talking about that woman that just would not, either she wouldn't listen to the direction, or she just had her own way about doing it. Or like some people are visual, they can see your hands, they can mirror your hands and do that. Some people need to like break it down and say like, you know, just feel it. I'm thinking about like, for some reason I relate it to like golf or something. Like some people like say like, I'm taking lessons. So you're like overthinking like, okay, because I was golfing the other day. So I was with somebody that was taking lessons, and they were like, all right, do this one thing, like do this, and then like straighten my things, and then do this, and then like reach up, and then like practice a couple times, and then hit it. And it's like, I just fucking like put my club up, like, all right, it's pretty good. And then just like hit it, like no practice swing. And I'm like, I'm much happier about it. We'll see what happens, and I'll just adjust as we go. But some people like need that this. And some people don't.
Yeah, like I'm a kinesthetic learner. I mean, I can read something and be like, at the end of it, like, what did I just read?
I just did that last night.
Go back. Yeah. But if I can do it after I read it, it sinks in. Like in college, I would take notes during the class. Then that's all I would study. You know? And I could retain it a lot better than trying to read the book. So, but I think you're right, Ryan. Like, you have to, I mean, what I learned about being something I learned as a parent. So we have one left-handed child. She's our youngest daughter. Left-handed people process information differently than right-handed people. And so I've had a left-handed student class, and I literally did have to kind of change the way I was explaining things. And so I think as a teacher, if you understand that you have to be a chameleon, you have to be able to be adaptable, you'll have success, and so will your students. You know, you can't just go at it one way. There isn't. I mean, I had a lady who would not cut her nails. She had long nails. She would not. I said, "Can you please?" And they were acrylic. Like, just, can you take them off for a class? Because I want to be able to teach you. She said, "No, I'd rather leave them on." So we developed a way she could do everything without having to cut her nails.
Bless you. Bless you.
That patience.
Bless you, man.
Oof. It's like I'm willing to do pottery, but I'm not taking my nails down. I got to be able to clean those and have them look good when I leave here.
Right.
Like I get that though. Just like Becca's talking about, some people just want to get away from their kids for an hour or 2 hours. It's like I get that.
Yeah.
Well, Becca, I'm interested. Like, what do you do differently now when you teach that when you first started you didn't do?
When I first started, generally how I start is I do a it's a little bit different. I do a demo, and then I'm like, I don't expect you to remember any of this, none of it, you know. And I try to make like analogies that they can remember. But what I started doing recently that I didn't ever do before is that we actually started doing the first pot together. If nobody had ever thrown, then I get up at the front with my like Shimpo Aspire, and I throw the piece step by step with everybody. And once everybody has the step done,
Mm-hmm.
then we move on to the next step. And
I
if
like
they're
that.
having issues with a step, the people that are kind of like, have the step, they have to wait. I'm like,
I was gonna ask you that. So they just have
no,
to sit
they
there
gotta
and
wait.
wait. Like, okay, I got it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
gotta wait. And if they fuck up, I'm like, well, you gotta do it again. So yeah, so if they get impatient, then I'm like, that's on you, not me. But I'll go to each person individually if they're having issues with a step, and I'll help them move their hands in the way that they need to. That kind of started actually because of COVID, and it worked really, really well, actually. And by the end of the night, everybody had a fully standing, solid piece, and that happened for a couple classes. And I was honestly really like proud.
Yeah.
I was like, that's
As you should be.
to have a solid cylinder that everybody could get through. And then also what I do with trimming, because I'd always do trimming the second class, I always make 2 pieces per person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just 2 cylinders, short, fat cylinders that I give to them before they start trimming their own pieces that are completely centered. And that way they have pieces that they can just completely mess up. Like, I want you to trim this as far down as you can go without cutting a hole in the bottom. Or if you do cut a hole, that's fine. But this is not your piece, so you're not emotionally attached to it.
Yeah.
And if you do get it out, if they do trim it well, then they can keep that, and that goes into the glaze firing so that they have a piece to glaze if they, once we get to glazing.
Okay.
So
I like
that they always have a successful piece, whether it be my piece that they trimmed, or because sometimes they don't turn out, like sometimes you don't get really good pieces in like a short time class, and so that at least gives them that confidence, like, hey, like I have a really great piece even though my teacher made it.
Yeah.
And it also lets them experiment with glazing the next class.
Okay.
So
Plus, they don't understand the steps that, like,
Yeah.
the things you do when you're throwing are going to affect your trimming, and then it's
Right.
going to affect the way that you can, like, dip a piece with your fingers on the foot. Like, they don't understand all that process.
Right.
So, like,
exactly.
they're like, okay, the lip's a little bit undulating, but they don't understand it. So,
Yeah.
And it took me a while to figure out that was a really important step to make those pieces for I was like, that's kind of like cheating, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's like, how are you going to learn how to trim well on a piece that isn't centered? You're not.
Yeah.
So that's what really changed almost everything at the end, was just doing that. And then once they're done with those 2 pieces, then they just start trimming their own, and they're significantly better than they would have been before. So.
And I remember, and thank you for that, Becca. That's helpful. I had a student recently who I had seen some of her pots on her Facebook, and she sought me out to help her. And I said, okay, the first class we're going to throw, the second class we're going to trim. And so I did a trimming demonstration where I trimmed the foot and I shattered the piece. And she said, Chris, you've just opened up a lot in my world, because other than rounding off the bottom, I didn't know you could really do anything, to the size of the piece or to the bottom of the piece. And, so I immediately knew, okay, there's that impact moment, that you're looking for as a teacher, to know that you made something click for that person. So
and I think also, especially if you are a teacher that makes pieces, a lot of the times those students are going to know what your pieces look like. And I trim a very specific way. It's very minimalist, very, no frills. And so I always teach 3 different ways to trim something, like with a foot, concave in, like, I always teach like all the different ways, because I don't want them to be, in a box. So
right.
Absolutely. And then Ryan, are you still teaching at Baker Hunt?
I'm doing date nights there. So the 8-week class was too much of a commitment.
Okay.
And they were actually, in the last couple sessions, they were moving to more of a like curriculum, like lesson plan base. And that's just not my style. I'm more like with advanced students, and like, hey, I'll demo some stuff that I think's cool. If you want to see it, you can watch. If not, do your own thing. You're here to get away from your kids for 8 weeks for 3 hours at a time. And like, that's cool. I'm totally fine with that. I understand it. And we're here to provide you wheels and resources and glazes, and I can answer questions. But the whole like structured curriculum, like teacher thing, I'm just not really in that kind of vibe personally, because I just got so many things going on, and Baker Hunt is a way for me to like get away from the house, meet some new people, try something out, do something kind of experimental. Like I get to make pieces while I'm there, so I get to play around, see what I like, try their glazes. And I do the date nights now, so I do usually 2 or 3 session. So, I got some coming up, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. So,
when did this interview turn around?
He's prepared. He's got some questions here.
You know what, Becca? So I just want to compliment both of you. Like how much what you do every week has helped me. And I have your undivided attention, which is not normal for me, right? So I wanted to make the most. I mean, I hope it's okay that I'm asking you guys questions.
No, that's good.
I love it. And I was just thinking that we need to get more people that are like listeners to like, it would be fun to do this, like more of like an interview style of us if they had very specific questions. I think it's very interesting. I like this new thing that just
when Chris first reached out, he had that you wanted it and got it. Now what? And he asked all these good questions, and I was like, we need to chat about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this would be perfect. And it's kind of like a informal coaching session, but it's just like chatting,
Round table.
So it's, I think more of this kind of things with people that listen to us a lot and get value, and then also have their own like challenges and successes,
Aletha Bean, you hear that? Just saying.
Aletha Bean, Lindy Gardner, you hear that?
I just want both of you to know that I look to you, because you're successful at what you're doing, and you've come further than I have, and so I want that conversation. I want to pick your brains. I want to know, what am I missing? What can I be doing better? And based on what you've seen or what and because I don't want. I mean, I left corporate America before, and I had to go back, and I just don't want to do that again. Nothing against anybody who works a 9 to 5. I'm not saying that. Just for me personally, this is the path that I want to walk down, and I don't want to have to change it again.
I'll say it. You don't want to be a robot.
Yeah. I don't want to be living someone else's dream. I want to live mine,
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what I found in my life. I mean, I spent 2 years working in Alzheimer's and dementia care, and I helped someone run their business, but it wasn't my dream. It was to pay the bills. I want to turn this into, what it could be potentially.
But you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because what you have that a lot of people don't have, now that I know this, and like what I have, and kind of what Ryan has, just because he's smart, is that background in business that is personal. It's not like a corporate business. It's hey, I helped somebody run this business. Like before I was doing pottery, I was an office manager that was helping a painting company run their business. Like I learned QuickBooks. I learned all these things. That is so valuable. And it's often overlooked. We have a lot of these. You have life under your belt. You're not 20. You're not 20 and starting a business. You are older than that. I don't know how old, and I'm not going to ask, but I don't like me, I'm 30, and I've got 10 years of experience doing other things under my belt, and that is it has really helped, and really it's an asset. So I think that's another thing, is just don't ever take those jobs that you're like I fucking hate this. Like, why am I running this other person's business? If you do have a dream to do something with pottery or with crafting or with whatever, and you've had those jobs, glean as much as you can from them, because they will help you so much in your future, even
and
if
you're still going to make that monthly paycheck while you're gleaning experience and knowledge that
they're literally
else
paying you to learn. Yeah.
Well, I did bring a lot from Apple. I will say that, and the rest of my jobs. And I know you didn't ask, but I'm 48 years old, and that's another thing though, is, what I was asking myself every day at work is, when, Chris, if you don't do it now, while the passion is there and the fire is there, when will you do it?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not in any way, I would never try to twist anyone's arm, listening or otherwise, that if you're feeling it as time. I don't know that for people. They have to figure it out for themselves. I knew it for me personally. When I got to the place where it was, even though like bullets weren't flying, I'm not walking 50 miles, right? I'm not, rappelling out of a helicopter. I'm not putting my body through a lot of, undue stress. It was more mental taxation,
Yeah.
And again, it was that question of, how long you want to live someone else's life? How long you want to help, put money in Apple's pocket?
How much did, because you have 5 kids, you have a wife, how much did the family and the did the weight did you just feel that when you had to make that final decision? Did you feel that pull between like self, like fulfillment versus like family security? And how did you, is that just discussion and having a, openness with your wife and your kids and things like that really solidifies that decision? And
sure. So it was lots of hours of conversation with my wife and I, like planning, thinking, what ifing, putting scenarios out there, because I have left jobs for strictly emotional reasons before, and that wasn't the right time. I even left. So my father, the business I ran for them, would have ended up going to me and my wife, but he decided to sell it. I wasn't included in the decision, other than whining and dining the new owners. But I will say that 2 weeks after they took possession of the business, my pay got cut in half. They didn't touch anybody else's pay. And I was the vice president, and I was, a C-suite executive. So I made more than $100,000 a year. Nothing to show for it. I was in my 20s, but I left for an strictly emotional reason, because they wronged me.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was asking me to come work for him. He ran a childcare franchise business. And so it was just kind of perfect timing. So in some ways I was lucky, but I don't think everyone falls into that category,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a part of it, right? So there is pragmatism here that, okay, if I start this, do I have enough money if I fail? Like, if it doesn't work after a few months or a year or 2 years, that's valid. But there is also the unknown. Like, I don't know what money's coming in. I don't know, how I can achieve this goal. But for me personally, it was, if not now, when, was the question. It just kept on. And I used the how I felt at work as a gauge, because there was several, a few years at Apple where that wasn't a question. I wasn't miserable. That didn't enter my mind. But there was a point after my mom passed away where, hey, do it or don't. That's really what it boiled down to. And I'm a very serious personality, very focused personality. My wife tries to get me to watch comedy just to, to kind of lessen just how serious I am about life and things. But, that's really what the answer was. I'm going to try this, and I don't want to leave anything to chance. If I ever have to get another job, I will have, no stone unturned kind of approach, so that I don't have to what if anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think some of that comes with just having those multiple jobs and age, and like just doing a number of things that you have that behind you, that you're like, okay, I've got to make a decision at some point?
Definitely, Ryan. For me, like, so the people I could look up to, Jesse James, the motorcycle guy. But, he started making one motorcycle at a time in his garage. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, they were in their garage. So I've looked at the parallels, and not that I'm a Jesse James or Steve Jobs or Wozniak. That's not what I'm saying. But But if people can start a business and be successful, why can't I?
Well, you are in your garage.
I am in my garage. There's that Venn diagram, right?
There you go.
A small intersection, right? And that's okay, you know. You know what? Too. What else has changed is I used to think I had to make tons of money to be happy. I was a very materialistic 20-something, and through a bankruptcy and wrecking my credit, right? A lot of that came crumbling down. Now the vision is I want to make enough to be happy. I want to make enough that we can go on a vacation once a year, that we can pay our bills without worrying about it. You know,
Right.
I don't have to be famous. I don't have to be well known. You know, I just want to live this life and be happy in it. You know, that's really what has boiled down from everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, well, Ryan and I both live well below our means. I live a little less well below my means because my means are a lot less. But but you know, I think that that's something that we both have in common is that we don't need money to make us happy, and I think that you know, he's the numbers person, so that's like that actually does make him happy, the whole numbers crap. But once you realize that, and once you have that in your brain, that's just like, I need enough to live on, and my happiness doesn't come from that. Like my happiness comes from the people I'm with and the ability to take care of the people I'm with. And you know, I mean, we've all lived paycheck to paycheck, you know. Maybe not Ryan, but
No, I don't live paycheck to paycheck, but I still worry like some people probably live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, there you go. But you know, we've all like been there, and it's tough. It's like really, it is really tolling on your body and your mind. But I mean, we're all gonna die. I think that that's the biggest thing, is that you're gonna die. You might as well be happy while you're dying, because we're dying right now every day.
Little inching closer, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. So, you know, is I want to answer those questions for myself. You know, what can I do with this gift that was given? And that's what it was. You know, I didn't expect, when I walked into pottery class, I thought it was going to be a semester of doing pottery, and that would be it. I didn't know it would change into what it is. You know, and I feel, I'm a pipe dreamer. I think that's the thing that helps me. But for my wife, it was, okay, what does Chris want to be this week? You know, because I used to want to be a physician or want to be a psychologist or whatever, you know. And I remember very vividly when I spent our whole tax return on a studio after my first semester. She's like, what's going on? And I said, well, I'm going to be a potter. She said, well, just until you learn it, and then you'll do something else. I said, well, this is different, and only time is going to show you.
I'm the same way, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I've wanted to be a lot of things. And pottery is the only thing that stuck.
Well, and Ryan, how about you? Like, you know, you've talked several times in various podcasts about at some point moving to a full-time thing, and I'm just curious where you are in your thought process.
I mean, I feel like I'm always, I don't know, like Becca said, I'm very numbers heavy, but I'm like, I don't know what number would satisfy me, because I'm always pushing and pushing and pushing. Like I said earlier about the timing of, you know, like I'm like a sponge of like squeezing every little bit, every hour that I can into the business in hopes that it's going to get me to this place where I have enough opportunities to where I don't have enough time in the day to do what I want to do and balance out like the things I need to do to like work my 9 to 5, for instance. Like there's at some point where it's going to be detrimental. And then it's like, do I ask my job if I can do it, you know, take unpaid days off? Is that beneficial to me? Is that detrimental to me? Like, should I just make that jump and make the decision? Is it going to hold me back? And that's where I'm like it's just my personality, I guess, of like the worry and the like what you have is so nice that 9 out of 10 people would be totally fine with it. Why would you leave that? But it's like, I have this itch of like, what can I do? And what have I done to like prove to myself that I can do what I hope, to be doing full time? And it's like, and then there's that like itch in me a little bit that like Becca said in the past of like, just because you want to do it, like what is going to change when you like officially do it full time? And like, are you going to enjoy it as much as you did when you weren't doing it full time? That's like, it's tough. Like, I'm also like a teeter-totter. Like, I'm on the fence. I don't know if I can, have the guts to say like, what is that conversation going to be like with my employer when I want to make that decision? And like, am I going to be confident in it? I feel like I should be confident in it because I should, want to, make this jump and be happy about it. And I'm sure everything would be totally fine, but it's just that unease and like, I can't. I mean, I could go back to it if I needed to, but like, would that be considering like failure or, I wasn't ready? Or that's why I was asking you some of those about the whole discussing with the family and the, I don't have kids. I don't plan to have kids. Like, we just got a new house, but like, I have the space. I should have the ability to do what I want to do. I don't have to pay for like rental space, and I should be in a spot where I'm comfortable and happy and satisfied. But there's a whole balance of like, the money in the bank on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis is nice, and I don't have to worry about it. But it's like, I don't know.
I mean, I guess for me, it's paradigm. So watching when I worked in Alzheimer's and dementia care, watching people exit this planet, exit this life, like that stuck with me, because there will be a point in time when that's me, not necessarily with that disease per se, but breathing that last breath, and I think for me is that entrepreneurship is the only way I'm happy in a work environment, because I'm always fighting that I'm doing this for someone else. So I'm only making part of the money I could be making for my family and for my future. And so that was the catalyst, really, is that paradigm of what I've experienced, and that I just grew very tired of that day in and day out, And I can say for the first, so April 30th was my last day. So for the first month or two, it was very surreal to wake up and not have to be driving to the Apple store, And now I'm just getting to the place where, okay, this is my job. This is my life.
You're like, God, I have to get out of bed.
And some jobs are like, so like my job is pretty abstracted, where the work that I put in it's for a corporation, right? So the work you put in is so minuscule in comparison to all the like business as a whole, and you're so abstracted from the end user of who's actually like benefiting, and it seems so small in relation to the person that's actually using it, and they might not even notice, You're doing like, the front end of like what a website looks like, but like, do they notice? Is it, beneficial to them, or is it just like sales tactics to help your company make more money,
Right. Yeah.
So it's very distant from the end user and the customer. Whereas with what we do, like we make it by hand, we're very invested in it, and you actually get to see the end user, whether you're selling online or otherwise. Like you still get to see like reviews about something you made, or like people that see you at a show. That's why I like doing shows. So it's, there's something more to be, I don't know, I guess you're more like, I'm more proud about the work that I produce for like the small business than I am the thing that makes me way more money. But it's
I love working for somebody else.
Well, you get to do pottery though, like I think I could enjoy it too if I got in the clay,
No, I mean like.
But you feel like at peace when you're like throwing on the wheel, right? Like you really love throwing on the wheel, and you get to do that.
Yeah, and it's not stressful for me. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like I've been doing it for 10 years, and if she gives me something, I can do it. You know, it's like, sure. Like there's no question of, is this too thin at the base? Is this going to crack? There's no question of that. It's like, yeah, this will be fine. Now, there are moments where I make stuff and I text her and I'm like, fuck this shit. I hate this cup. Like, like I can't do this. And it's because there wasn't enough clay, you know, and it's like, it was, you know, just weird things like that. But no, I just really enjoy not having the responsibility.
But you have a connection though with the owner.
Yeah, that's true. That is different. I have a very personal connection with Rebecca, so like she's like one of my best friends. So that is helpful, and we talk and I never thought I would be able to work with a friend. So I'm very lucky, but yeah, I really enjoy, like I have a weird pseudo responsibility at the studio where it's like I'm kind of a manager, but not really. You know, I'm like, if somebody has a question about how to throw something, I'm there. If somebody has a question about trimming, I'm there. But like also, I don't have to worry about the fancy stuff, which is great. Like when I owned my own business, that was the biggest part. That was just like all these people that I have to talk to, and my personality type, I'm an INTJ, if you know anything about Myers-Briggs, but I'm a reluctant leader. That's like the biggest thing, is that I'm like, I will lead. I don't want to.
Like you have to be forced into leading.
Yeah. But I will. I will lead, but I don't want to.
You'll be like a tough love leader.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like, but I am excited to go back and do my own stuff after having like this break, but I definitely, it's awesome to hear people that just love to be in the forefront of things. Like Rebecca loves that. She loves being her own boss. Like you love it. You love being your own boss. And I want to love it. I'm not sure I do, but I do to a point. I think
there's some personalities that not pointing directly at you. I'm just saying there's some personalities that you're like you need certain things, and it's more stressful to be left to your own devices to make all the decisions of everything.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think it's good to find out what you are. Because like what we're doing right here is like you're saying, like, I love being the entrepreneur, and like, and that's what you're saying. And then Ryan's like, I love that, but I also kind of enjoy the ease of this, but it's also really rewarding to do this, you know. And it's really good to figure out that cycle and what you do love, because a lot of people get into doing their own business without any knowledge of who they are really.
Yeah, right.
And then they find out that they aren't the person that can do their taxes at the end of the month. And you know, there's like certain things that are detrimental to the success of a business that they physically cannot do or mentally cannot do, which is completely okay. It's just that you need to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are before you get into, like, before you jump into the water. You have to know if you can swim, you know? Like, that's big. Like, before you jump into that water, you got to know.
Well,
you either have to have floaties on or you have to know how to swim. Okay, there's two options.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. One is that, you know, the grass might be greener, but it still has to be mowed.
Yes.
You know, and the other thing is, you may not be able to answer all the questions you have before taking the chance. That's the thing. And you know, for you, Ryan, because you were saying at what point is it right? But for everyone else who is maybe thinking about that could be listening, is that you may not be able to answer all those questions. You know, there is that school of thought of, I have to be ready to do blank in my life, whether it's go to college, get married, buy a house, have a child, whatever the case. You know, so what does ready mean? You know, like you say, Becca, like you need to define those things. You shouldn't just jump because it's hard at work. because if you don't
Yeah.
understand some of those intricacies that you're dealing with, you're just getting yourself into a deeper situation, more challenging.
I'm
And I
posting
think
this to Instagram. Before you jump in the water, you have to know how to swim or have floaties.
Or have floaties. And something about mowing grass in there in the water and
a fence.
greener grass and mowing irrigation from that pool. I don't something.
Exactly. It also takes belief in yourself, an undying amount of belief in yourself. And there was a point in my life I didn't have that, and thankfully to pottery, I have it. And maybe that's also the pipe dreamer in me that just has those goals, They're a lot more realistic than they used to be. I'll say that.
How does the, so like the belief in yourself, because some people, when they get that like 500 order, they either don't believe in themselves and they don't think they can do it, or they're like, I'm not really sure. And then it kind of proves that they should believe in themselves because they actually did execute on it. There could have been issues and there could have been things they learned and things they can improve for next time. But it's like, that, you should get some confidence and like start making some changes and, feel a little bit better about yourself and what you can accomplish rather than putting it down and saying, oh, I got to turn this thing down because there's no way I can do that. Or
and that I had that kind of like in the meeting, I had that thought process of, wow, okay, so I used to think, or right now to me 10 pieces is a lot, or 50 pieces is a lot. So I'm looking at doing 500. But for me, I wanted to answer some questions. Can I do that? I had no doubt that I could. I just didn't know how it would look. Because I knew I could sit at the wheel for hours and hours and hours at a time. Of course, things happen like kilns not working properly, something breaks, whatever, things will happen. But for me, I wanted to accept the challenge because I wanted to see what I was made of. And
also, kudos to the what is it, pottery colors, or what was the
clay and colors?
Clay and colors. Kudos to them for like supporting you through this.
Oh, yes, they have just an amazing amount of trust in me, and it's humbling.
That's amazing, because like when I went through my 300 piece order, my first one, I was also at a different studio, and they were like, I think it's time
that you get
got
your own kiln. Yeah.
And then this was Larry. Larry was like, I think it's time that you maybe like, he goes, I've never told anybody this, but you might be producing more than what we can handle. And his wife got so mad at him. She was like, don't tell her that. She can be here as long as she wants.
Yeah.
But sure enough.
I mean, they could see you as like, hey, he's a repeat customer. He's going to be here for 500 mugs. Like, he needs to get this done. He's got skin in the game with the money that's coming. So, like, we're going to have some, it's going to benefit us for a period of time.
Well, the other thing that I did was I became a member. So basically, I'm paying monthly to help support them.
Yeah.
Because of their trust, and it wouldn't have been possible without that at this juncture. And so, if I can give back and if I can help support them, I'm totally game.
Yeah.
And then they could be like, they maybe were more open if you could say, hey, could I store 150 of these mugs on a shelf that you have plenty of space for, or something,
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have space to put finished work, like, hey, this is going to be gone in 10 weeks.
Yeah.
Can we put everything I'm making? Do you have a dedicated spot that I could put this in? Or
even in a
put
corner
it in
the
studio
box?
space or,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The push and pull, give and take. It's important.
Yeah. That's
Plus,
awesome.
I just feel like you like exude this like appreciation for your, whether it's just like your experiences with one-off people. I know we've talked through messages and whatnot, but it just seems like I don't know if you do this with just like anybody or if it's people that you get a rapport with, but you have this like feeling like they have your dedicated attention when you're talking with them. That speaks to like, who you are as a person, and then like who you are as a business owner, and how you carry yourself, that a lot of people
and I
can get
appreciate that.
something out of.
And it isn't just with whoever's in front of me. I mean, it's with everyone. And I'll tell you when it happened. It happened the day that I buried my sister, because growing up with a sibling, like she was 2 years younger, we didn't always get along. There was a 6-month stretch before she passed away, thankfully, that we kind of got back on an even keel with each other. But I made a commitment to myself that anyone in my life would know how I feel. Yeah. Because if I had to then be buried, I don't want questions. That was really the thing that drove it. And over time, I've refined that approach. And, sometimes I'll say to people, I will probably say thank you until it wears out its meaning. I hope that doesn't happen. But just understand, I recognize your role in this, or whatever the case, and I just want to make sure you know how I feel. And that's served me well.
I would say that I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that everybody listening to this podcast can feel your genuineness. Yeah. And that's like, I can feel it. I'm talking to you, but like, I can feel it. And I felt it from the minute that you came onto the podcast. And that is, you have excelled in that challenge and that like commitment to yourself. I feel like you've definitely excelled in that.
And, the two of you have felt like friends in my studio, even though I wasn't having an audible conversation, but I found myself so many times. So again, like, thankfully for the poker experience I have, because when Ryan wrote to me to say, hey, I talked to Becca, maybe we could talk about this on the podcast. Outside, I was like, oh man, that's going to be great. But inside, I was like, and literally, like, I call it the frog in my throat, where, you're about to tear up over something happy. And I came to my wife and I said, I have something to tell you. She said, what? And I said, I'm going to be on Wheel Talk. And she's like, what? And so, literally, I told Ryan, Becca, that I did never expect that invitation. I hope that I've conveyed how much you both mean to me. You've definitely shared your compliments about me, and I really appreciate that. But I just want to be sure that what you're doing is making an impact in the ceramics community. You're always going to have those people that say negative things, whatever. They shouldn't be listening if they don't like it. That's how I feel about it. Because,
well, I'm sure JW17 and stopped listening a while ago. So.
JW17. Oh my gosh.
JW17, you're missing out, man. Poor woman. Well, I do have a question for you, both of you. As this is such a new thing, like this full-time thing for me, what is your recommendation? Like, what now? Like, since I did that thing, since I did that big order, what would be the next thing you would do in your job?
Well, Ryan?
I thought you were going to answer.
I can answer, but I don't know if you have anything to say.
I don't know. I'm not full time. I don't know how to.
Oh, it's for me then. Okay.
No, it's for both of you, but
I can think about it as you're answering.
What I would suggest is through for sure. Try to get it, because and it sounds like you enjoy doing production on a wholesale type level. Mm-hmm. Because you enjoy that now, I would say definitely get a FAIRE, FAIRE account. And that is a wholesale platform. Okay. And so it's basically a good way to connect customers with potters and stuff like that. And with your agateware, it's a little bit different. So that's a really good thing to start with. Like, when I started doing, I think that just the natural progression is to start doing wholesale, and then the rest will kind of like follow suit. I mean, you're already doing shows, so it's not like that's anything new. So adding in that wholesale can be nice. And especially since, it's not as much, like, you're not doing any of the extra money work wise. Like, you don't have to go out. You don't have to like drive anywhere. You can just ship it off. So it's nice do that. Now, what I will say about Fair, what a lot of people don't know, is if you can find somebody who has an account with Fair, like that's a buyer. So Fair is kind of hard to get into as a seller, but you can get in as a buyer pretty easily. So like if you go to a plant shop, or if you have somebody that owns a small business that has a bunch of handmade stuff, and you say, hey, do you have a Fair account? They can actually request you to be in Fair.
Okay.
And that is an automatic in.
Oh, wow.
So if a customer, like if a buyer requests an artist, as far as I know, it's an automatic in. So
does that do anything with percentage wise, like how much you get because they already bring you to the platform, or is it just like an easy like, hey, you're in the batch of people now?
Yeah, I don't know. But they do take like a certain percentage, but what's nice about it is that they pay before you ship out. So that's nice. But really it's a no-brainer situation as far as like you don't have to find wholesale accounts anymore. You can just put your crap on Fair and they do it kind of for you. And there's a lot of other places that do it as well, I believe, but Fair is the one that I know like Rebecca uses, and Andrew just got a Fair account. So we have like the client, like Fair has done really, really, really well for Gravesco. Really, 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 really well. Especially in times that like, so I would try and find some sort of account and start doing some more wholesale stuff, because if you want to get into production, that's really where you make your money,
Yeah.
And I mean, you're very personable, so I'm sure you do great at shows. I don't. So but yeah, so that's probably what I would say. Get a bookkeeper once your books start getting complicated. That's another thing. Or or even if it's your wife and she learns how to do that stuff, have somebody else do it. If it's not your cup of tea, that's another thing. Do that earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was leaning toward the talk to people, like figure out ways to not just be holed up in your studio. Like Becca's talking to wholesale, right? But I'm like, hey, get in front of people and talk with them more, because like your story and just your personability with people, like, the story and just everything that you can share with people, like it's like a tearjerker talking to you for an hour, and like you're sharing these like personal things about like your appreciation, and like,
I'm such a softie.
I was tearing up when he was talking about that. And then like, that's my advice, I guess. Like, I feel like it's a detriment to just be in your studio making wholesale stuff. Like you're talking about teaching people, like that's a part of it to diversify. And then there's like shows. If you feel like making a body of work that's not within a wholesale order, see what comes out of it. I mean, I'm not sure what you enjoy making, but it's, What, Becca?
I just remembered something that's I would recommend also do not make too many different types of pieces.
Okay.
Start with a small like lineup of items, like a mug, a cup, a large mug, like a small mug, large mug, cup, bowl, plate, if you want to do plates, hanging planter, regular planter, like, have like a variety of items and kind of work out from there, see how they sell, see what you're doing. And then, but don't just be making like, 7 different cups that are all 7 different sizes, like you need to start, I'm sure you already do, but like, weigh out your clay, make sure they're consistent, and make sure that like that way when if you do go the wholesale route, or if you get more wholesale clients, you can make a line sheet that says like, this is my mug, this is my cup, this is my bowl, this is my plate, this is my planter, this is my hanging planter. These are the prices, and that's it. It's a very clear set structure for them, so that way you don't have to worry about it, and you're not like freaking out with all of the different things that you have to do. Try to simplify your system. Like if you want, like you can see like on Rebecca's website, if you go to gravesco.com, you'll see that there's very specific items. Like she has a ton because we have 13 employees, but but there's still like only 20 different items, 30 different items that we make. And it's not like super varied. It's very specific. And I think that is often missed. You can get away with that at shows. You cannot get away with that if you're selling online. Well, I mean, you can if you're selling online, but mostly if you're making really expensive stuff. But like, you know, if you're selling multiples of something and like shipping it off, and that just makes it easier because you can say, this is what it'll look like. Of course, it's not going to always be the same, but this is generally what it will look like, and then you can, you know, make it later. So.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And that goes
try
with,
to
that
like,
goes with having shows too. I mean, like that's generally you should be doing that anyway.
and I get more and more comfortable saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't make those. Like, I'll get people that'll walk up at shows and be like, I'm looking for salt and pepper shakers. Sorry, I don't make those.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad at all one bit about saying, sorry, I don't make those, because I don't see myself enjoying to make those. So no matter if these salt and pepper shakers are $50 for a pair, I'm not going to enjoy making them. So,
yeah,
you know, see what you enjoy making, see what you don't.
One no a day keeps the psychiatrist away.
Well, I did have that thought about when you first start out, it's almost like you got to go where the money is, to a degree. But then over time, once you have these accounts, like you could build into that. There's a place where I say no. There's a time when I say no. You know, it's not going to hurt me to not take this order. It's not going to hurt me to not take on this account. You know, that's kind of where I could see the linear thought happening. You know.
Yeah.
Which at this point, I almost don't. I mean, I see the value of limiting myself, but to a point, I almost see that I need to make the money where I can when I first start like this. You know?
I think when I was a couple years in, I started selling shows. I only sold like 3 shows my first year, but the second year and third year, like I was really digging in and saying like, I want to find some shops that like work with my stuff. So I like kind of like cold emailed or, you know, filled out their application form and like took photos of work, and you know, that was a way to fulfill my like making cycle a little bit. Like, okay, they expect 40 things. Here's the colors that they want. So I need to they want bowls, mugs, vases, and
planters.
Planters. So I'm like, okay, I need to make to this so that they can supply it, whether it's considered wholesale or consignment, whatever. Early on, it was all, I mean, it's still pretty much all consignment, but you know, there's some that buy them wholesale, but that fulfills my making itch where like you want to spend time in the studio making and you want to make a lot of them, which also scratches your like, hey, you're practicing, you're improving by making a lot of things. You're getting it to a shop that can sell it on any day of the week that they're open. And like that kind of fulfilled my, like it helped me grow a lot in like what I was making. And also like I can experiment a little bit. Like I don't have to make this bowl exactly like they got it the last time. Like it's going to improve over time. And then, you know, you see what sells because you get a report monthly when they sell and stuff. So like you find out what's good, what's not, what's sitting. And you can play around with like the relationship with them, you know, ask them what they want to see more of. You know, if they trust you to like pick out some colors that your customers respond with and, you know, you can deliver, then it kind of gives you some possibilities of like, what do I make that I can help them sell, because they're going to be happy because they make money off of it. Right. So, you know, if you can give them some expertise, you know, my customers are really resonating with these oil bottles. So I want to give you 10 of these and see how they do.
I like that a lot.
You know, I was digging in there because I just liked making stuff, but I didn't really like, you know, you're limited to the shows because you can only go to so many shows at a time. So,
and almost like when you have things at a wholesale account, you know, you're not there. Once you deliver it, you're done, and then it's their responsibility. It's, you know, but I think it's a better indicator than a show because year to year, I mean, I haven't done that many shows, you know, but you might sell great. Like this, I sold all my chalices that I had at Castle Rock. So to me, I thought, okay, next year I want to have some of those, but those customers might not come through the booth. But at a wholesale account, like if they tell you, Chris, I don't have any more of those butter keepers. They're gone. So that tells you, okay, there's some demand.
Mm.
So
really decide if you want to make butter keepers or not. Really.
Or price them appropriately so that you're like,
Price
okay, it's really worth it.
Well, my standard, butter keepers are 48 that are either single, they're glazed, or they're agate ware, no glaze.
Perfect.
My fan art ones are 62.50. So
good.
If people want to pay that, then they can get butter keepers.
If you guys all have questions on how to price your shit, message Chris.
Well, in your opinion, for either of you or both of you, is there room for another YouTuber who wants to teach and who wants to talk about their story?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I would fucking love to see you make a YouTube.
Man, I feel
Really?
like I feel like there's I don't watch a lot of YouTube, but I assume a lot of them are very focused on this specific thing, and you're trying to achieve this specific thing. Like, I feel like you can add a little bit of commentary with it, or like the way that you present it could be, hit them in a different spot or something of like how they understand it. Maybe, I don't know.
Why not
Becca, what do you
Patreon?
think?
Feels.
Why not
Becca?
Patreon instead of YouTube?
Oh, I hadn't really thought of it.
I mean, you could do both too, but since you're really focused on teaching and you're really focused on that, like one-on-one, or, that like you're really focused on humans, like you're a human person.
Yeah.
And Patreon might give that to you more. And it gives the ability to like teach more abstract things, more like,
You're impacting people directly versus more indirectly
Okay.
with YouTube. They just watch it and see what they get out of it. But
yeah.
Patreon is more one-on-one. Like, people want to support you, and then they get your immediate attention.
Yeah, because like, like Danny Meisiger, he does
Mhm.
I said his name right for once.
You
He
did.
he does a Patreon, and he's done quite well on the Patreon, and he is also very much like you, where he's very personable, and he's very like, John the Potter is personable. He's very like, he's got that personality that's very crazy, and like you want to watch him. I feel like you doing a YouTube would be very similar to Simon Leach doing a YouTube, which he does, where it's just like, there's the camera. Like, let's talk about why this is good, which I adore the way that he does his YouTube. But also, if there was like a Patreon of Simon Leach back in the day, I would have so done that. And you're a little bit more mellow. Whereas like a Tim C, a John Potter, they have like they're very vibrant,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that either one is bad or good.
Sure.
But yeah, you may look into that, because especially if you like teaching, man, it's so much more personable. And YouTube, there's so many comments and stuff that might stress you out.
Yeah, it can be a tough world out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, but also, I mean, just think of it too. Your current students could enroll in your Patreon as well and get like extra teaching. So that's I'm not saying don't do the YouTube. You can and you should, but look into Patreon.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Well, I'd definitely like to potentially have an offline conversation with both of you sometime, just to continue and pick your brains, and this has been extremely helpful for me.
I think it's beneficial too for people to just like explain what they're doing, because some people can't do that when they just sit down and do it, and they just know inherently how to do it. If they can explain it, like you have to explain it for a YouTube video to actually have somebody get some value out of it rather than just watching. Like, that's going to help you grow too, so that you can understand why you're doing what you're doing, and like, okay, now I add water here. Why are you adding water here? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like where the like in the Patreon you could ask questions and stuff.
Yeah. So with the Patreon, like, I guess you could have live where they're watching you in the process. Is that what you're getting at, Becca?
You could, but
It'd be a
also
lot
they
of,
can message you and be like, why are you like, I watched this one video at this watermark. Why did you do this? You know?
oh,
And you could have a conversation with them as opposed to YouTube where, they comment on it and it's like in a thread, you know?
yeah. And
Yeah,
you're
I
not
mean
able
they
to
could
answer
still put
every
the timestamp,
comment.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
But I
it's a
could see a
little.
John the Potter where he doesn't have time to answer
Right.
every comment. Like you might start out that way, which even with the small amount of followers I have, like there's times. I mean, honestly, when I posted this stuff to Pottery Heads and Clay Buddies about the show, I've never gotten 1,000 likes on a single thing I've ever done. And
Yeah.
in those groups, I did, and it was very like, wow. So these are mainly pottery, either potters or people who are really crazy about pottery, love pottery, that are commenting, and so many comments too. And I've tried, and then I got, I guess, Facebook jail because I kept thanking everybody for their comments,
Yeah,
and then
they
I
don't
couldn't
like
comment
that.
anymore.
He keeps bumping it up to the top, and they're like, "This dude's trying to get on the top the whole time. He keeps thanking people." I've done that once before, and it's like, "Come on."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you really, it's like you're you're in a, not a tough spot, but an interesting spot where a lot of potters are potters or they're people potters. So like you're trying to be both,
Mhm.
so you're
What do you
trying
mean
to
by
sell.
potters, people potters? What do you mean by that?
I'm about to explain that.
All right.
You're selling to people that don't know anything about pottery, but you're trying to teach to people that do know things about pottery. So,
Mm.
like me, I'm a potter, so I teach, and most of the crap that I sell, I'm selling to potters, But Rebecca, she's doesn't have any potters that are her customers, like barely any. And so like, if you smushed our Instagrams together, we'd have an extremely vast clientele, but we're very opposite ends. So yeah, and like you can squish them together. Like, I feel like John the Potter has done that quite well, where he's got half potters and half not potters, and then also like Kurt Hammerly is half and half. So just keep that in mind. Like, who's your clientele? What's your demographic for your
Mhm.
Instagram, your social medias, like who are you wanting to sell to? And does it have a cap? So like sometimes I feel like potters, they have a cap, right? Because there's
Mhm.
a lot of potters in this world, but it's hard to reach them all, right?
Yeah.
So, but customers that don't know anything about pottery, unlimited. So keep that in mind. Like, if you're going to start a YouTube, do you want to sell, like, is your goal to make money off of YouTube or Patreon, or is your goal to make pots and sell all that stuff, Because if you're an introvert and you hate people, you're not going to want to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to knowing who you are, but yeah,
Yeah.
keep that in
Okay.
mind.
Thank you. Well, more than anything, I just, both of you have made such a tremendous impact on me in my life. And I'm so glad I stumbled upon the podcast while just searching.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And started
How did
listening
you how did you
2 years
find it?
ago.
Did you find it on Clay Buddies or was it somewhere else?
Brian.
No,
I'm
no,
curious.
I just got into the podcast app and typed in Pottery Podcast.
Oh,
And
okay.
I saw your little
Fuck
picture
yeah.
with your caricatures, and I was like, whoa, that's, that stood out, to
Yeah.
me. And I started from the first time. I loved the way you go back and forth, and the humor, and sometimes maybe they're not arguments, but there are sometimes where you don't agree. Yeah.
We're the second one.
Yeah.
Love it.
If you type in pottery, we're the second one.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's based on like episode numbers, maybe.
We're the second one with our little E.
A little explicit. A little explicit.
Hey, that's okay.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I always appreciate all the commentary you have back and forth with me. You bought a mug of mine recently, and
Yeah.
just the I totally get the like genuineness you have and like the appreciation. And Becca, we need to have more people that listen to podcasts a lot on here, because sometimes you have people on that you're like, okay, you're gonna get some eyeballs because people know them, but like it's good to have people that are going through the same things that you and I are going through.
Yeah.
That haven't necessarily had that, everybody knows them moment yet, but it's like, everybody's figuring it out just like we are.
Well, yeah, and that was our goal with having people on the podcast anyway. It wasn't just because you're famous or just because you do something cool. We want to have people that can really relate to like what our guests are talking about and have a very specific like reason for being there, so get it.
And Becca, you brought up Simon Leach. I had a very rare opportunity. I attended a workshop that he gave.
I remember when you did that. I feel like you messaged me or something.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Just to, because when I first started in ceramics, like he was the potter that our instructors talked about watching on YouTube. And so, several hours, many hours of just watching him teach and trying to replicate, and to be able to tell him thank you personally was cool, and to watch how he taught live was a very good experience.
Is he as nice as he seems like?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Extremely.
Perfect.
And in fact, his brother recently passed away, and I called him to say how sorry I was, and I think that took him by surprise, and but I've experienced it too. So, but you two are that important to me. You are just like that in my life, and it has been a critical. Seriously, I think it's important to be said. You two do all of the. You're the ones giving all the value, and I just want to be sure you hear it. That you realize it's working.
Everybody needs a Chris Burch in their life.
Yes, they do. And we thought we were just talking once a week, just shooting the shit, Becca.
God, you are a fucking gem of a human being.
You are too. Both of you are too. And I'm so excited about ClayCon West. Already got my ticket.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're gonna stay with us.
Yeah. So thank you for that invitation. I look very forward to the time. And Becca, seriously, or if both of you ever get to Colorado, like there's, come here and throw and maybe do a podcast or something. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll do a in the studio with, like I did with Val.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely will. I've got a few people. I gotta go to Rupa, Pottery by Rupa, and she's in Boulder. You're in Colorado Springs.
Awesome.
Yeah. My parents are gonna be like, but you're here for us, right? No, I'm not.
Business trip. Writing this off.
What's interesting about human connection is I had a ceramic artist reach out to me the other night, and he said it was 4 years ago that I went to a Phil Rogers workshop at Continental Clay in Denver. And of course he's passed now, but to watch Phil Rogers live, like doing what he did, and that potter said, Chris, this is from 4 years ago. It's when I met you, and I remember saying, well, thanks for writing to me, and are you still in Boulder? I'd love to come by. And he said, yeah, come by the studio. And just like, wow, that one image that he just happened to snap a picture,
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm just so thankful for this the clay community, while very vast, it seems small,
Oh yeah, clay people are good people, man.
Yeah,
clay
I agree.
People are good.
And you get so much more value out of talking one-on-one with people.
Yeah.
Versus through a keyboard.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that you feel like so in depth, but like just spending a day with them, you get so much more value and so much more about them than you ever have for like 5 years of talking with them through a keyboard.
Right. Yeah.
We know that better than anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
true.
I
mean, some of my bestest friends, literally some of my best friends, I met on Instagram and through the interwebs. And like Rebecca, I met Rebecca through Instagram, and now I work for her. and we're like besties, and we live in the same apartment complex. I'm in her studio, recording this right now. Like, and Andrew Linderman, Isaac Shue, Josh Heim, Ryan Durbin, all these people.
Thought you were gonna forget me.
How could I ever forget you?
You're just holding on to it.
I have to save the best for last.
That's right.
But yeah, like all these people like that you just talk to on a daily basis, weekly basis, or whatever, they change your life. And when you do get to meet them in person, it's like you knew them for years.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that for me personally, it's the most important thing is the people. And you said it earlier, Becca, same thing, you know.
It's important. Yeah,
absolutely.
We should probably wrap up since it's been almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. If anybody
quick.
doesn't know how to find you, how do they find you, support you, all that good stuff?
Main place to look is on Instagram, Pottery by Chris Burch, and last name spelling Burch.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for the time. Everybody.
Thank you both. Thank you both so much.
Don't leave, but we're gonna say bye.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, cool. Yay, that was fun.
Wow.
That was. How did we get to
You're
3
so
hours?
great.
That was nuts.
We have to have you on again because you're just fucking great.
You know, I would love to, Becca. It's surreal, you know. I mean, I like I said during the time is I look up to both of you, and it's been, you know, 2 years now that listening and just, you know, laughing and learning, it's been important. And I guess people don't say thank you enough, and people don't tell you the good stuff enough.
Yeah.
It's always, we're such a cancel culture mentality, you know. It's so disposable, our relationships, when someone has a difference of opinion. And you know, I mean, I grew up in a very prejudiced household. My father was born in the South. It was very toxic.
Yeah.
I don't know how my heart wasn't hardened by it, but I just never let it, you know.
Yeah.
And in the last months of his life, you know, he really tried to make amends. I guess I won't have to do that, you know, because I don't behave that way.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I would be honored, you know, to be on again, and I want to give value, you know, to your listeners for the journey.
Oh, they're gonna get so much good stuff out of what we talked about.
Yeah.
I don't see it that way because I don't know what you're looking for, but I will say
they just want genuineness. Like they just want the like the real stuff, you know.
Good. The only question I have, Becca, when you're editing is the part where you ask me what I made, because people from Castle Rock may listen to this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they want that public. Like, I don't mind sharing with you all. You know, I know you're very vocal about what you make, and I've appreciated that, because in not making much at a show like $100, you know, I know what's like. I shoot for the things that you two have done, you know, in your shows. But do you mind taking that part out?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean the budget part?
Where I talk about making $10,000 and then, you know, telling me it's $20. That's all we're going to spend. I don't want to paint them like they were not nice or something, because they were very nice.
Do you want? Let's see. Obviously, I'll take the $10,000. Do you want to take the $20 per mug out too, or do you want to leave that in? I mean, it's
really just a math game.
There. So okay, I'll take it out. Yeah, I will be creative.
I don't want to make it hard for you, you know, to do that. I don't know how difficult that is, but I just don't want them to get offended or whatever. That's all.
Oh yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. But
I see it as like a straight numbers thing. Like, what do you got to spend? Like bare bones. Like, what do you got? 10,000. All right, how much are they going? $20. Yeah.
Right.
But they could take it a different way.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't want to paint them in a light, you know, any kind of light, other than I'm thankful for that chance, because I don't want to ruin it, you know, for next year.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
But it has been a fantasy, like, I never thought I would be on your show. That's really how much I revere what you two do, and I just to have had the chance is such a highlight for me, really.
Oh, thanks. Highlight for
Yeah.
us too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've
you're
been
welcome. Thank
following you for years, so I know,
Same here, and I
Yeah.
want a Becca Otis mug. And if I have to settle for one of your wine cups, I will. But I want a mug because if I could show you real quick, so look,
It's blurry.
Is it?
It's blurry from it's got the
Uh-oh.
blur setting on.
Oh, what? I don't.
On the
shoot.
3 dots on the top or the bottom,
It's got like a background filter or something.
It's got a background filter on it, which was fine when we were doing it, but there you go.
How about that? Is that better? Okay.
Perfect.
He's got one of my mugs up there.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you'll recognize anybody.
I see a Dusty Hansen, maybe Isaac Shue.
Yeah. Isaac
Isaac,
Shue.
Robbie Teasdale.
Okay, I didn't recognize that one.
Ooh, another Isaac.
Shue.
Yeah.
What's the one to the right of the Isaac Shue, between the two Isaac Shue
So
ones?
this was a mug exchange I did because I like
that's cool.
art. They made that for me.
That's awesome.
Why so serious? Nice.
So while I'm thinking about it, because I don't want to forget, could I help with pot swap in any way? It's coming up.
Yes, we need help with that.
We'll add you to the list.
A JTP mug there.
JTP,
Yeah.
A friend of mine from Canada, Sabrine, she made this for me. Be the light, because that's my goal.
Oh,
so
I love
she
it.
Nice.
made that for me. Martha Grover over here.
Grover, yeah.
Awesome.
Then I don't know if you follow Kayla Morgan or Lala's Fresh Pots, but that's her agate ware.
Lala.
Oh,
I feel like I
nice.
recognize Lala, yeah.
Okay. There's another Robbie Teasdale Woodfire.
Okay.
And then a couple of Dusty Hansen at the end there. So
Nice.
Dusty Hansen's so cool.
He's such a good friend. But I keep the mugs out here, and I use them, but I keep them out here for inspiration, constant inspiration in my studio. So.
Love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a mug, but I have to figure out how I'm going to make it.
Okay.
It might be
Custom-made
small.
Becca mug.
It might be a small mug.
That's okay. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I want to make a mug for each of you. Could I have permission to use the caricature on your mugs?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to send it to you?
She's got a
Please.
graphic she can send you.
Okay. Because other than the fan art, I don't ever not get anyone's permission. But with the fan art, obviously I can't get Disney's permission or Marvel's permission. But but I wanted to ask that of you because I want to do something special for you.
That'll kick us into gear to do something branding wise with
our
our own stuff.
Yeah.
You do some throwing towels or something. We got to get pot swap out of the way first. I feel like.
I gave myself the end of October. I need to do it.
We need to get pot swap is first priority. We're supposed to have people sign up. We told people we would have signups in October.
Okay.
God.
Well, please tell me how I can help.
Yeah, we'll add you to the group of people. There's about, Becca, what is there, like 6 of us?
Yeah.
8 of us maybe. What we did last year, we just kind of split up. Each person had their own week to kind of like manage any messages that came into Instagram, reshare stuff, share a post about themselves, what they do, and like what they've gotten pot swap in the past if you've participated in the past, and then like what you're looking forward to and stuff like that. So
I feel like I blocked all of pot swap 2020 out of my head. Like it's just gone.
Well, yeah, we definitely have. We need to. It's getting to a point where it's. We're dreading it because it's like 800 people potentially this year. But I mean, we've set our own goal of like last year we did 400. So we want to like double it because we doubled it the last 2 years. But it's like, what's reasonable.
Yeah.
That's that moment where you got to be careful what you wish for, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then the questions just multiply, right? Because you get the emails, you get the DMs, you get, people that don't realize that you're getting 800 people that are involved, and they don't realize that you're just one person, and you have, this is the number 6 thing on your priority list or number 10 thing on your priority list that, if they don't read directions or if they don't fill things out right, then you've got to go the extra mile to fill that gap in.
Okay.
Well, we did really well last year. What I feel like saved us so much is that we released who had who in the like at the end of pots.
hey, this person is your person. Go contact them.
Like, you have to contact them. We're not contacting them for you. Like, and
The
we said
secret
it at
is
the
up
beginning
at
too.
this point. Like, we're
Yeah,
not
we
holding the
said
secret anymore.
we will release names on this date. So
Okay.
yeah, that was the best thing that we could have done for ourselves. But yeah, it's a big undertaking, but it is worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you two have
800.
blown my mind. Thank you for tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, this time was
You're welcome.
very happy to have the time. I'm glad we could go over 2 hours because I feel like it would have been shortened and condensed that people get more value out of it. I think people will appreciate it even though it's 3 hours. They're gonna be like, there's parts at the very end there that they'll like really get value out of, and some people get really big value out of the middle parts. Whenever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, I'd love to keep in touch with you, and hopefully January gets here quick because I've never been to a clay conference. I was scheduled for NCCA when COVID happened, and I didn't get to go. But
I feel like this is a good entryway because it's only going to be 200, 300 people.
Yeah.
I don't know with COVID things if there's going to be less than that, but I mean, I feel like it's a good size. It's pretty intimate, and you can actually like talk to people, and it's not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you either of you or both of you ever bring pieces to give away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll each have our own pieces to sell there, but we'll bring swappable pieces too.
Yeah.
Do other potters do that as well? Like, I know you're teaching things, but yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm bring like some shot glasses or something, like small things too that you can do. But there is a pot swap that they do at like for everybody who wants to participate, or at least they did the last time we were there. And you like put 2 pieces in a bag, and then you grab a bag, So.
Oh.
Yeah.
So what would be a good amount of things to have, do you think?
I would say 2 mugs. Or 3 mugs maybe, or 3 cup mug thingies, and then maybe like 4 shot glasses if you wanted to trade something small with somebody.
Okay.
I feel like the trade thing was smaller things, like shot glass.
I wonder if it's on ClayCon West's.
Yeah.
Look on their website because it might say.
Okay.
Or message him through Instagram or something, Joe, or Facebook, Joe Bot.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I know you guys are 2 hours later than me, so. Or 1 hour.
10 o'clock.
1 hour?
It's 10 o'clock.
10. Okay, so it's 2. Okay. Well, thank you again, and I'll be in touch soon. And I saw that you shared something, but I don't know what it was, but I'll check it out, Becca.
Oh, I just shared the part about jumping in the water with floaties.
Oh, okay.
That's funny.
Cool.
Right,
okay, well, nice to meet you.
Same here. Have a great night, okay?
Thank you so much. Again. All right.
Bye.
You're welcome. Okay, bye.
Bye.